gonna record so that I keep this, and in case I forget or don't
Yeah,
write down
that's okay.
fast enough, if
You
it's
you
okay.
you you missed some of it, sir.
Yeah, no, but what you said, I had in my mind already,
Okay.
and know
Right.
most of it is such. So thank you, Eddie. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just go over some numbers. 300,000 crew members sailed the high seas
Okay.
in 2024.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. Now, in 2025, the
Yeah.
industry is seeking another 25,000 due to,
Yeah.
the larger vessels, higher demand for
Yes.
cruising. And
Mm.
so um, when I think of those numbers, and when I shared these
Mm.
numbers with Wayne John,
Yeah.
he was astonished.
Mm. Mm.
And so that's where the opportunity
Mm.
begins.
Fantastic.
So
Fantastic.
so for a crew member to
Yeah.
come on board a vessel, he needs a C1D visa. So I'm showing you here in this
Yeah.
sheet all
Yeah.
the various visas.
Okay.
I know you work with the H1B visa.
No,
However, on
just
the cruise industry, it's the C1D visa.
see
That
one.
is a combined transit
Okay.
and crew member visa.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the C1 will get them out of the location, and
Yeah.
then the D will get them to the actual ship itself.
Okay. Okay.
So this is a very interesting career
Yeah.
for young people today,
Mm.
and me and
Mm.
even middle age and some elderly people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the cruise line industry is doing nothing at this time but growing,
Oh,
growing,
interesting.
growing leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting the way that crew members are provided to the ship, in that the ship will always have rotation of crew members. So
Mm. Mm.
some cruise ships will have 4-month contracts, some
Okay.
have 6-month contracts, and
Okay.
others have 9-month contracts.
Okay.
So the cruise line that offers the 4 months, they would
Yeah.
take a 2-month vacation. The,
Okay.
the cruise line that offers the 6 months would have a 4-month vacation,
Mhm.
and of course, the one that offers the 9 months will have 2 months vacation as well. So constantly, the crew is being replenished.
Finished. Yes. Yes.
So it's a consistent business. Now,
Mm.
out of Cape Canaveral alone,
Yeah.
there are at least 7 lines
Yeah.
with various ships.
Okay. And we
Now,
cruise ourselves. We've done 11 cruises.
oh, great.
So we're familiar with the whole process. Well, lots of it, at least as
Okay,
a tourist and a consumer, we
right,
see and so on. So yeah, yeah, just
right.
so you know.
So that's good.
Mm.
But what's important here, Manuel, and I'm sure that you would agree with me, is knowing the operations
Yeah,
of the vessel.
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
now we're talking about the back of the house, the front of the house,
yeah, yeah,
and understanding the verbiage,
yeah.
and most of all, being able to relate
Mm,
to the executives of
mm,
these lines.
mm.
So having the wherewith, knowing how to use their time,
Yeah,
knowing how to prepare a letter, knowing how to approach them in order for them to even consider.
yeah, yeah. No, I can see that. And I've noticed in the cruises we did, certain nationalities seem to be in certain sections. We invest in art. So we go to the auctions, and most of them are South Africans that work there.
Exactly.
All the dining rooms have Filipinos and South Koreans or something, and then the
That is
technical are also Filipino. So yeah,
That is
there's been-
that is so correct. Filipinos, Indonesians, South
yeah.
Americans, right now, um, these are the less developed countries that basically seek more of the lines.
Mm, mm, mm.
Now, um, what's very important, I would say, is having a success rate of 94 to 96%. So, what I mean by that is having a providing a crew member
Mm.
to a vessel who's going to have that success rate,
Yeah,
94
yeah.
to 96,
Okay.
because you're basically elbowing your way into the industry.
Mm,
And therefore, it's going to be very important right from the beginning to
mm,
be able to offer really good employees
mm.
as opposed to having employees run off from the airport as soon as
Yeah,
they arrive,
yeah,
or run off from one of the ports,
yeah.
or not be prepared and understand that they have a contract to fill.
Mm, mm.
So, so the preparation
Yeah,
also for that crew member to pass the visa certification exam, because they're going to have to go before an officer, and the officer is going to ask several questions. And
okay.
what that officer wants is he wants to flunk you. He
Yeah,
wants
yeah,
you not to pass the test,
yeah.
because what they don't want is they don't want someone walking around the streets here in the States,
Mm,
because that crew member's intentions were really never to
mm,
work on board the vessel, but
mm,
just to get to the airport.
mm, mm,
So this is why
mm.
vetting
Yeah.
would be of great importance.
Mm.
So
Did Jared share a little bit with you our performance statistics and so on these topics?
well, we only met for an hour,
Okay.
and
Oh, okay.
yes, I do have
Yeah.
my notes. I do have my notes from
Yeah.
Jared, and Jared did explain to me how high your standards are,
Yeah.
for the various employees that
Mm,
are working
mm.
on these at USA
Yeah.
Farms.
Yeah.
So I thought that was great. So
Yeah.
that would have to be from the beginning. That
Mm.
would have to be of great importance,
Okay. Yeah. And what I
because
just want to,
yeah,
yeah.
this way they know that they can count on the
Yeah.
company, because
Yeah.
they've had a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
So they'll want to go back. So it's
Mm.
all about sowing
Mm.
for future
Yeah.
sowing for future business.
Mm. So just to share with you a little bit two data points is we have only a 2.5% fallout number of our workers at the moment out of the 3,500 that we bring, um, which just means they maybe resign or they get fired. So that's
Exactly.
2.5%, which is generally, it used to be about 10%, but we've got it down now.
Mhm.
And we've had not one abscondence in the last year. And at
Okay.
most, we might have one absconder in the whole season out of,
Those are good numbers. Mhm.
yeah, yeah,
So what I'm discussing with Sir Wayne John is that because you have such a good record, and because you've been in this industry for quite some time, not only may this be a time for you to get into this side of the business,
mm,
but also the fact that your prestigious name would be very good
mm,
to
mm,
carry into this business.
mm, mm.
For example, if I did this for myself,
Yeah,
then I would have to uh, create that employment, that strength and employment that you have.
mm,
You see what
mm.
I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
for me personally, I explained to Sir Wayne John that for
Mm,
me, it's better to
mm,
join
mm.
someone like you
Yeah, yeah,
rather than to do it myself.
yeah, yeah.
So that's another thing that I find because you may be thinking, well, this man is sharp. Why isn't he not doing this for himself?
No,
Now,
the same reason for myself is, I realize that taking hands, you accomplish much more
exactly.
because I can't get into the door unless somebody maybe helps push the door a little open
Right.
and guide one and how. So I'm very open that we can form a total win-win relationship, Eddie,
Right.
if this is what you still
Right.
want to spend your time on in the future.
Yeah. So
So
I
that,
have, you could say, you could think of me as someone who has uh, a master's
yeah, for
or
sure.
or a doctorate in
I,
this business.
I agree, both those and probably
Although
a doctorate.
all, all I have, I do have a bachelor's in business or organization
Okay.
as in education.
Oh,
Anyway,
okay.
this
Yeah.
this business is a it's a wonderful business, and it's a business that requires a lot of discipline.
Mm,
So the cruise industry, they're not so successful
mm,
because they hire people who are mediocre. They are successful because they're putting out the absolute best people forward. Now, I'm going to give you an example of something that
mm.
I'd like you to think about.
Yeah,
So you're going to ask me, okay, so Eddie, who are these cruise lines using,
yeah, yeah. I
right?
was gonna
Who are
ask
they,
you that.
yeah, who are they currently using? And
Yeah.
I'll tell you what they're using right now. They're using satellite offices just
Okay.
like you.
Okay.
However, the way I see this business to be successful right from the beginning is I I would tell you that the most important thing is to have like a center of operations.
Mm,
Like, for example, before any one of your 28 different locations hire a crew member to go forward,
yeah.
before they go forward with the opportunity, I think it's important that they would share. And I understand that you have executives that are they're very well spoken, they're highly educated in the field, but only because this is a new field,
Mm,
I think it's important that perhaps they would share the applicant with someone, with me, for example,
mm,
share
mm,
the
mm.
applicant with me, share the certifications of the applicant, and have a meeting with that person that you have
Mm.
throughout the 28 that recruiter that you have throughout the 28 countries,
Yeah.
so that we're both understanding exactly who's coming forward
Mm,
before the actual hiring takes place,
mm,
before
mm,
they're presented to the cruise line.
mm.
This way we know that we're working on a win-win-win situation. That
Absolutely.
crew member is going to provide wonderful services for the cruise line,
Yeah.
and that's what's going to get you back with another one and another
Mm,
one. Now,
mm,
so what's happening now
mm.
with the cruise lines, and I experienced this firsthand, is that sometimes the cruise lines get a bit anxious because they have these ships that they're building that have capacities of 6,300 passengers,
Yeah. Yeah.
6,600 passengers.
Yeah.
So it's a revolving door
Mm,
as far as
mm,
crew members that have to go back,
mm.
crew members that have to be hired on. So what happens?
Yeah.
These satellite offices, and I'm talking about cruise lines only. I'm not referring
Yeah.
to your satellite offices.
Yeah.
These recruiters, then what they start doing, Manuel, is that they start making deals with the
Okay.
people in the local community.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what happens is that they start to recruit, or they start to drop the
Yeah.
standard
Mm.
because maybe they have a bond with a neighbor of a son,
Yes.
of an
Yes.
uncle. And
Yes.
then what happens is maybe they get, in these small countries,
Mm.
maybe they're getting gifts on the
Mm.
side.
Mm.
And then,
Mm.
so what they start to do is they start to provide volume versus
Mm.
quality.
Yeah.
and that this is where they go wrong,
Mm.
and this is where the cruise line starts to dump their services.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
this is where a cruise line with a lot of an
Yeah.
employment agency like yours with a lot of reputation, a
Yeah.
lot of status, a lot of discipline, this is where you
Mm.
actually are able
Right.
to win
Yeah.
the cake.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's important
Mm.
that when you do have a crew member
Mm.
who you feel that's perfect for the opportunity, that we have a Zoom meeting, that I
Mm.
see the
Mm.
papers, that you know what I'm saying,
Absolutely. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
to ask the
Yeah.
pertinent questions and to make certain that they are ready for the position.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
also have to have certification
Mm.
of what they're applying for, and
Yeah.
of course the background, the criminal background is important,
Mm.
as well as COVID tests, flu tests, and making certain that they have what's called the Siemens medical
Okay. Okay.
certificate. So
Okay. Okay. So there's quite a bit of things that goes into it.
there's
That,
a lot there's
yeah.
a lot of documentation that goes in,
Mhm.
and then of course
Mm.
the final interview is most important.
Yeah.
Now, the crew member has to understand. They have
Yeah.
to understand how long their contract is going to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Each cruise line has different contracts, and they have to understand that, while they're seeing the world, they're working, but
Yeah. Yeah.
the working hours the
Mm.
working hours are between 14 and 16 hours a day, and not everyone has the stamina
Yeah.
to do
To
that.
do
So
that.
they need to know up front, Manuel,
Yeah.
what they're getting into.
Yes.
They
Yes.
can't be sold a cherry cake,
Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
the work is tremendous.
Yeah.
So how does it become 14 hours, you're probably thinking, or
Well,
16
my
hours?
my workers on my farms work 12 to 14 already, all of them.
Uh-huh.
And the biggest complaint I get is I want to work more hours. Can
Oh,
you
good.
help me to work more? And
Okay.
they move. The main reason for moving in our organization from farm to farm is I need more hours.
That's
So
good.
South Africans are highly motivated by the money they make.
Mhm.
They'll be paid in dollars, generally, right, Eddie?
Well, that's something that's very important to discuss with the crew member.
Okay,
They,
okay,
they, a crew member will earn dollars if he's working for tips. If there's
okay.
tips involved in the work that he's doing, for example, if he's a dining room waiter, for example, he'll
Yeah,
get tipped by, or bar waiter, they'll get tipped. Now,
okay.
the crew member gets paid depending on the flag that represents the ship, and
Oh,
the
okay,
holidays and the
okay,
working hours of
okay.
that particular. So you're talking about Monrovia, Nassau. So the flag that's registered for the
Okay,
ship,
okay.
that is basically how they're going to be
Yeah,
paid, and if there's any holiday pay for
yeah,
them involved, and
okay,
where the overtime rate starts at. Now,
okay.
most of the crew members decide that they want to work additional hours, just like you said, and
Yeah,
what they do is they work in other departments
okay,
to
okay.
make extra dollars.
Yeah.
So a waiter may want to work additional hours and help a cabin steward,
Mm,
and
mm,
this is the way they work additional hours. So
okay.
what I'm saying is that each crew member mostly works dual jobs
Yeah, yeah.
on board the vessel. So
Okay.
the idea is the good crew member, the productive crew member,
Yeah.
the crew member that would give the best representation is the crew member who says, "I'm going on board this vessel for 7 months.
Mm,
Going on this vessel because I'm going to earn money,"
mm, mm,
and that's their mentality.
mm,
It
mm,
has to be their mentality.
mm,
One of the
mm.
biggest issues that we have with crew members is that they're enticed, because some of them may come on board and they may want to, they're enticed by the female or the male passenger.
Okay,
So
yeah,
those that are serious about the work at
yeah.
the end of the contract, those are the ones who bring home money.
Mm,
And then those monies, of
mm,
course, they get to cash them in for the currency of their country and
okay,
yet make additional money.
okay,
And they all have bank accounts, and their monies are deposited directly to their bank accounts.
okay.
And then, of course, they have minor expenses on board because
Yeah.
their meals are taken care of. Some some cruise lines will wash their clothing. Others will provide areas for the crew member to wash
Okay,
their clothing.
okay.
But overall, some cruise lines today,
Yeah,
even have a human resource department.
sure.
So it's basically it's a senior
Yeah,
officer,
yeah.
and his duties are to make himself available for a crew member to knock on his door, or to
Yeah.
ask for
Mm,
an appointment to meet with
yeah.
that gentleman or the lady, and to say, I have this issue and I need to discuss it with you. And then that HR director can get involved,
Mm,
and we could save a crew member from possibly dropping
mm,
the
mm,
position,
mm.
or going back home
Yeah,
early.
yeah,
So
yeah.
most of the large crew members do have that senior officer available,
Okay.
and they're just as available
Yeah.
as all the rest of the senior officers, and
Okay.
they're seeing uh, the crew
Yeah,
members daily. The crew
yeah,
member may have a problem with one of the officers.
yeah.
He may feel as though he's not treated fairly. He meets with that gentleman.
Mm,
They discuss the situation. And
mm.
of course, because there's so many different departments on board a vessel,
Yeah,
you could take that crew member and you could place him in another
yeah.
department.
Far away from that
Yeah,
person, not
yes,
to
yes,
cross paths and all that. So
exactly.
the HR person plays a big role in keeping the peace, helping
Exactly.
to smooth over the conflict and
Right.
stuff like that. That's
There's either
yeah,
there's you could go to an HR person, or
yeah.
you could go to what's called the staff captain.
Okay,
The
okay,
staff captain follows the captain, and
okay.
the staff captain, well, he's in charge of how the ship looks, the appearance of the ship,
Yeah,
and he also makes himself available to crew members.
okay, okay. Do
So
you?
basically, they have many people to go to
Yeah,
rather
yeah,
than
yeah,
just walking off the
yeah.
vessel.
How easily, just out of interest, can a person communicate that's on the ship, off the ship with, like in my model, I have 7 people who represent different states. So I
Correct.
could employ a person just to represent the ship and all the crew that we supply and
Right.
have them somehow be able to call that person if they have
That
problems.
that is another thing that you could do,
Yeah,
or the other thing that you could do is, when you know the operations of the business,
yeah,
when you understand the operations of the business, what you could do is you could have your name placed. For example, I could have my name placed on the visitors list
oh yes,
on board these vessels when they arrive. And at 7 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
once that ship is cleared customs,
yeah,
I would be allowed to enter the vessel. And
okay,
then, depending on the cruise line, they may allow that crew member to meet with me and tell me what are the issues.
okay,
Now,
okay.
that is something that you would only do, Manuel, when there's of
Serious.
something that's very
Yeah,
something that's extreme or extremely sensitive,
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
maybe he doesn't feel as though he wants to go forward, or maybe he feels that he doesn't have the communication skills
Yeah.
or the language skills in
Okay.
order to get his point across.
Okay.
Then
Okay.
that's when I can meet with the staff member or the HR
Yeah.
representative, and say, this is the situation that we have. The crew member lacks language skills, or he doesn't really feel up to sitting down talking to you. He doesn't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
He called me personally. He gave me his scenario, and I'm here to represent him.
Okay.
And what could we possibly do?
Yeah.
So then now that the situation is in the lap, it's in the lap of the HR or the staff captain, and then that person could work that situation out quietly, whispering with the other officer, and they can come to an agreement as to whether we'll move him or you're going to change your skills as to how you're approaching this crew member, because he's in the brinks of leaving, and this company is very good for us as far as hiring, and we want to continue to work with them. So it's a very sensitive situation. But that crew member can be provided a phone number to call, and then that crew member calls that number, and then he knows that he could speak to someone and get his message across. And there it could be taken from there.
Okay.
Because that's very important, Manuel, because this way we can keep up the success rate very highly. No, and then sometimes, Manuel, it may be a little bit different. It may be one of the females that we employ. It could be one of the ladies. And she may have a sensitive situation. This is why to me, I'll go back to what I was telling you earlier. This is why to me it's important to be a face to the crew member prior to going on. So in other words, when I told you that it was important that your executives they contact me and say, this is the crew member, blah blah blah, and I could have a Zoom meeting with that crew member, ask him a couple of questions, and then the biggest and most important area is for them to see a face, and for them to know a name.
That's
and
right.
That's the time. That's the time that you tell them. By the way, I live in Cape Canaveral, Florida, where the ships leave from. And I could meet the ship. And we could discuss this situation if it's highly sensitive, because it could be a female. She may want to be very careful. I mean, it could be, Manuel, it could be a senior officer who's molesting her. I mean, you don't know what the situation is.
I can see.
So, I mean, these men are on board. They're on board the vessel for 9-10 months. And it could be any situation at any time. So that's why it's important that they feel comfortable from the beginning and say, you know what, I know this man. I met with him. I had a Zoom conversation with him. I met him. He was very nice. And most of all, he was very inviting for me to call him if needed. And I think that's important. That would be important to establish.
So I feel that's very doable, because presently how we arrange it, when a worker is offered a position with a farmer, or a farmer has looked at his resume, seen his video, and he heard how well he speaks English and how he actually sells himself to the farmer. The same model we can use here, where we provide that information from our recruiters to you. If you were going to be the person in that role, and to do, like I think I'm hearing you say you might, and later there'll be too many, so we might have to have people help in that regard. I mean, if we do 100, that's easy to handle 100 people, but if we talk 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, then it'll be more difficult. But we can definitely let them have an interview with a expert person in your role and judgment position, with each one of them. And we actually force our workers to do an interview with every farmer presently. So we can duplicate that easily to say, hey, you're gonna, after the interview, a decision will be made. if you might be the right person or not.
Right.
And we
Exactly.
build our whole system around that already, a database system for that purpose. So that can work great, Eddie. Absolutely.
I think that from the beginning, that that standard is very, very, very important. A gentleman says, I'm an entertainer. Well, we need to see your video. What
Yeah.
exactly is your form of entertainment? No,
Yeah.
because I'm a waiter. Well, we really need to see your certification.
Mm.
Where do you work? Do you work in Zimbabwe? In
Yeah.
what hotel? There has to be
Yeah.
vetting
Yeah.
involved,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
if we start out sloppy from the beginning,
Yeah. We'll
you'll
be.
never catch up.
Yeah.
You'll
Yeah.
never catch up.
So
And
presently, just to share with that, our recruiters, I force them to do reference checks and find out,
right.
did the person work where he said he worked,
Uh-huh.
talk to them, and especially if they were overseas,
Mhm.
they call the American farmer, because we have about 10,000 South Africans that come to America, of which I bring 3.5 of them. The
Right.
others come through my competitors. And so sometimes those workers want to work for our clients. So
Mhm.
my recruiters call that farmer and say, hey, and double check and send him a reference check and make sure that he did the work. How well did he do it? Would he hire him back? Was he
Mhm.
a good enough, upstanding, high quality person? And so on. So yeah, Eddie, and we do. I'll share later more. I'm glad and I appreciate what you're sharing because it helps me get a feeling for how involved is this project.
Now, Manuel, you used the word that's very important. You said the word competitor.
Yeah,
So I understand from my research, or better yet, I understand from Jared. I
yeah,
understand, who's a wonderful man. I understand from Jared that right now, you are in the number 3 position
yeah, that's
in
right.
your industry.
Yeah, yeah,
So I say to this is why I so badly wanted to actually be able to talk with
mm,
you,
mm,
because if you are in the number 3 position and you add cruising to your portfolio,
yeah,
then you will be right where you want to be, which is at the first place.
yeah, yeah,
Now, if you do not go forward with this,
yeah, yeah,
then and one of your competitors, the 1 or 2 man,
yeah,
gets a hold of this industry,
yeah,
then
yeah,
Manuel, you're going to
yeah.
be in third place for a long time.
What a lie, no, I know. No, no,
And I
I'm very
understand
keen,
that's not what you want.
Eddie. It's interesting. This past cruise that we did, we were in summer on a cruise, 7 days in the Caribbean, and
Right,
we bought some art. And the people that we dealt with in the art section, which is from Park West,
right.
the main auctioneer and his girlfriend, a South African girl, we
Right.
later spent time together, and they approached me and said, South Africa, the cruise ship that they are on, or the group, actually Park West, that not the cruise ships, Park West,
Right.
hired 400 South Africans for
Hmm.
their galleries and to carry the art, display the art, and to hopefully find out of that people who can be auctioneers. So we
Exactly.
started talking about it, but and I'm very keen. We're actually meeting Monday again. We sort of have been going step by step, slowly to see,
Right.
because that's incorporated in my, if I do it for the art gallery people, which puts their people on the ship, which is a different entity I have to deal with than the cruise ship themselves. And it's also a different, slightly of a niche market if I look at it, because most South Africans end up in the sick bay, the medical section, and the physical, the massage section,
Hmm.
and then in the art. Every ship has a South African in the art. So that's been great. And but their system wasn't, I haven't been able, Eddie, to get to the people behind the scenes who does the
Hmm.
hiring. He just said, oh, I'll pay you a referral fee, but that's not really where I want to be.
No, no.
But yeah, I
You
just wanted to share
to
with
think
you. Yeah,
to excuse me, but to think that way is to think small.
yeah,
When you
yeah.
when you're looking, when I'm sharing numbers with you
Mm,
of 300,000 crew members in
yeah,
2024 and in 2025, which is just coming up, is
yes,
going to be another 25,000,
yeah,
then you're not in the business for the referral business.
yeah,
That would be I mean that's
yeah,
something that you couldn't even entertain. By
yeah,
the way, right now
yeah,
today
yeah.
today I'd like to share with you. You said 400 crew members are being uh, are being recruited today.
Well, it
And,
was,
and
yeah, yeah,
today in Somalia,
yeah,
Nairobi in Zimbabwe,
yeah.
they're searching for 400 crew members, and this is all the major lines,
Ooh, okay,
all the
okay.
major lines. So I
Yeah,
really, if you don't mind, Manuel, and
yes,
I hope you don't, but I really want I really need to share with you that when you think about this business and when you think about the opportunities
mm,
that lie behind this business,
yeah,
you really need to think that you must iron with a hot iron,
okay.
because the hot iron the
Yeah,
hot iron is before you.
okay,
And really, now is the time
yeah,
to really get started with this project. And
okay,
because of course it's going to take time
yeah,
to
absolutely.
elbow
Yeah, yeah,
ourselves into this industry. It's
yeah,
not like uh, you know we would start tomorrow
yeah,
and we
no,
would
no,
have 100 crew members a week.
no, no,
It's
no,
gonna
I
it's
agree.
gonna take time,
Yeah,
and it's a relationship that has to start with bonding
yeah,
with the lines.
yeah,
It has to start with the very better of the crew members.
yeah,
And so, but really thinking, right now, in America, we would say that you're behind the eight ball, sir.
yeah, 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 it sounds like it. It does sound like it,
with all with
absolutely. For
with all
this industry,
with
yeah,
all due respect.
yeah, yeah, yeah. For this industry, for sure, I am as such. Yeah, opportunity never presented itself till now. You know, it is amazing. I think talking to the art people made
Uh-huh,
me tell Jared because I
uh-huh,
thought, okay, and then Jared told Wayne, and then
uh-huh.
you guys luckily met and so on. So no, that is very interesting. I don't believe in coincidences. I trust that this will open a door for South Africans. You know, I have a recruiter in Mozambique and Swaziland, and we have others in other countries. We 35 countries people we bring, so we have a lot of sources that we can quickly get it if we put it in place.
Right.
I
Yeah.
understand, Eddie. There'll be a lot of work that we'll have to do,
I
stuff
I
to
would
do.
love to I would
Yeah,
love to I would love to have a list, only if you want to share it with me. I would
yeah,
love to have a list of those 35 countries
yeah. I can
that
send you a
where
list.
where
Yeah,
you're where you're presently where you
yeah.
presently at. You could email that me if you
Yeah,
wish.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But let me rephrase that what I said. We have workers that come to America through us from 35 countries, but my main countries are South Africa, Brazil, um, Ukraine, Moldova, Romania, North Macedonia, and then all these central Bahamas, all these
Mhm,
countries here. In
mhm.
the Caribbean, there's a few recruiters, Guatemala, and so on. Now, those Central American, I do want to initially, if I may, for the success of this, focus on the South Africans first.
Right,
Firstly, because they speak fluent English.
right.
Secondly, because they all have finished high school.
Mhm.
Thirdly, because they're highly motivated to get work.
Okay.
And and the exchange rate from South Africa makes it very lucrative, especially dollar wise. We
Mhm.
need to look a little bit at the other currencies that you refer to. You know, if it what does it translate to if they get 2,000 money from Nassau, from the Bahamas. I think Bahamas is dollars also. It's equal 1-to-1.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so that's good. I don't know about the other country that you mentioned earlier. You mentioned
Right.
Monrovia, I think.
So yeah, Monrovia, Panama, Bahamas,
Oh, wait, Monrovia, Panama.
Panama,
Yeah,
Bahamas.
Bahamas. Okay.
They are the ones who are the predominant foreign flags that have been doing this for the most amount of years.
Okay.
So
Okay.
therefore, they're really the predominant.
Yeah. Okay.
Now
Okay.
you may have some cruise companies using new flags, but
Yeah.
we would be able to find out the flag right away.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Now I want to
Oh,
tell you a short. I want to tell you a
yes.
short. I want to share. I want to share a short story with you. My
Okay.
wife, my wife and I were on a cruise a month ago,
Okay.
and I saw I saw this gentleman who was definitely international,
Yeah.
and he he looked he looked pretty sharp. And I went up to him and I said, "Good evening," and I wanted to chat with him. And sure enough, he had a few minutes to chat. So turns out to be that this gentleman was from Kenya.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Okay, listen to this
Okay.
story. So
Yeah.
he's from Kenya. It took him, Manuel, 3 years. So his wife, his wife got pregnant.
Yeah.
His wife went through the entire gestation,
Mhm.
had the baby, and when the baby was a year old, he finally was hired by the cruise line
Okay.
because he did an aggressive campaign on his own,
Yeah.
writing letters trying to get hired.
Yeah.
Now,
It's for,
so
it's for a second. Eddie, this is my wife. She's been
oh,
running around
how are
here
you?
doing
How are you?
payroll. This is,
Oh, so
yeah. Yeah.
I must say that Manuel is an extra fortunate man.
Amen. I agree. No, I just wanted you because in a
Yeah,
future
thank you.
conversation, we'll
Yes.
probably have Kathy included.
Okay.
She
Thank
was going to be here, but she couldn't now. So, yeah.
Kathy with a K or with a C?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So this
Thank
gentleman waited 3 whole years,
Yeah.
Manuel, to get hired.
Sure.
So I say to my wife,
Yeah.
I say, Jackie, we could have if Manuel were established
Yeah.
and he wanted to go into this industry,
Yeah.
this young man would have worked or he would have worked 3 contracts
Yeah. Yeah.
with
By now.
any one of the lines
Yeah. Yeah.
while he was trying to get the job. In the meantime, he was working as a tour operator in
Okay.
Kenya.
Yeah.
He was very scared
Yeah.
because he told me he was doing safari
Okay.
tours
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
with the tourists,
Yes.
and he disliked the job because
Mhm.
he felt it was dangerous. In
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
meantime, he
Yeah.
could have been traveling, and he could have been earning money, and
Yeah.
he would have already had 3 contracts going on his 4th contract. It took him 3 whole years
Yeah.
to get hired. And I asked him, I
Yeah.
said, so what was the trick? How
Yeah.
did you get hired
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
way from Kenya? And he said, Eddie, it was one thing that I had that probably no one here from Kenya has. He said, my name is James Kennedy. And they probably thought that
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
gentleman was an elitist because
Yeah.
his name was Kennedy.
Yeah.
So they actually paid attention to his application.
Mm.
But this is what is happening today
Mm.
in South Africa,
Mm. Mm.
because I'm sharing with you
Yeah.
that Zimbabwe, Somalia, and Nairobi
Sure.
need 400 somewhat employees at the present time.
Yeah.
So why should if a gentleman is in the area,
Yeah.
if a gentleman is in Kenya and he's going through all these loops to get hired, that's because there's not an agency there like yours to provide the service.
That's right. That makes
Now,
total sense. Yeah.
something that's very good about this whole situation is crew member comes on board and he completes his contract. He does a very good job.
Yeah.
He comes back home. He's positive about the monies that he earned.
Yeah.
He's positive about the experience that he had. So what do you think that crew member does? He brings you his uncle, his cousins, his brothers, his sisters, and they're right at your doorstep, and they all want to apply.
Yeah. Especially for this kind of stuff. We see the same in our industry, but they don't always have the skills or the knowledge as a brother.
Of course, they may not have the skills.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying to you is that you're going to have a good response because
that
crew member is going to sow another 20 people.
Yes.
So, and of course, if he has a bad experience, then he's going to tell 20 other people not to be a part of it.
Presently, as we speak, we have 8,000 people in our database who could have come to America and work, who are qualified, filled in their resumes, made their videos, and were verified, and they couldn't get a job because we don't have enough places to place them.
Right.
Those people could easily be channeled in a different direction because some of them that do apply are not really farmers. They might be a mechanic or a plumber or an electrician or something else. We don't even look at the people in our system that don't have some major farm-related skill. So we get 40,000 people a season that knock on our door and say, can we please come to America? Can you help us out of South Africa? And we only place 3,000 and only 1,200 new ones every year, basically, because some of them fall off and go get married or take their money and start farming or buy businesses in South Africa. So 60% of all our workers return the next year again.
Okay.
To the same employer, actually. So we'll have the same culture we can implement with this for these other workers. It might look a little different when we have it really all flowing, just because the kind of person will be of a different caliber. It would be high quality people, and we'll make sure, I don't know if Jared told you, we give them a shadow matching test at the moment, which we pay about $11 for, that tells us their habits and gives us a massive report. We also get a Myers-Briggs analysis done and a dope test, which is the character personalities of owls and peacocks, and tell you where he'll fit in if he's a team player. So we expose them to that, and they complete that also. So that helps tremendously, Eddie, with whoever needs to make a decision to be able to look at that data. It makes it a little overwhelming. Even our farmers, they don't always look at the stuff we give them, but it is available for them. So what I was going to suggest, if we
I wanted to make a point, if I just could, for a minute.
Yeah.
So I left Wayne John with this point yesterday while we were at the pool, hoping that we would be able to speak. While I don't want to be opinionated of your business that is very successful, I do want to leave you, or I do want to just share with you this thought. So here in the U.S. today, we have a lot of controversy over employees that are being brought by other countries into the system. Okay, and a lot of those employees right now are agricultural employees, and
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that I don't know why the agricultural employee is the subheading. But I was saying to Wayne John, Sir Wayne John, I said, one of the other reasons why I think Manuel should consider this is because let's suppose that tomorrow the doors would be shut off
Mm.
for international agricultural workers, be it because of the thoughts of one president
Mhm.
or another, or an incoming political system over
Yeah.
another.
Yeah.
Uh, there's still there. You still have the cruise lines that you can rely upon,
Yeah.
as opposed to being shut down completely.
Mm.
It's a different area. This
Mm.
could be
Yeah.
what we're discussing today, Manuel. Could be a separate entity,
Yeah.
perhaps
Yeah. Yeah.
a subsidiary, a
Yeah.
separate entity completely of USA farm labor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's another way. It's another way during uncertain times to
Mm. Mm.
be able to still be in the same industry and in a very lucrative
Mm.
one
Mm.
because the numbers are so high.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to leave you with that thought.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't want to. I don't want to cross the red lines
Yeah.
of your
No, no,
business.
no.
But just food for thought on
Mm.
that as well.
Mm. Mm. No, I personally fully agree. When COVID took place, Eddie, my whole
Yes.
business was shut down because of the South African government. And I
Right.
had to fight hard to get them out. And they were 3 months late. And we finally brought about three-quarters of our people. But that affected us for sure, not having that income, not having continuity. And then when
Right.
we got them here the next year, the Biden administration shut it down for a month because they didn't understand the importance when the two governments
Mhm.
changed. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm very vulnerable. I've always wondered what could be a second basket to have some of my eggs in a second basket.
Mhm.
And we finally reached the size where I myself can devote the time and energy to that because I now have 35 people working for me in my office, just in this office,
Right.
and then another 40 people overseas in
Mhm.
different offices. So yeah, this is the probably the best time for me to get into this and try and not try. If we decide we'll do it, we'll do it. I promise you that. I've
Right.
worked 20 years on this, and I
Mhm.
started with 30 people that I got from another lady who started a similar business and it was going to die, and I took it over. So from 30 clients, we now 1,400 clients at the moment, which
Mhm.
represents about 3,500 workers. And we never did any advertising in 20 years. This last year and this year is the first time we've ever advertised our services.
Mhm.
We always grew by word of mouth and by
Right.
farmers telling another farmer,
Right.
listen, they're doing a great job. You should go with them. So,
Mhm.
so yeah, I'm very keen, Eddie. Um, yeah,
What's really important is that you are not going to be you're not going to be far away at all
yeah,
from
yeah,
where all the action is taking place, because the
yeah,
action is really taking place here in Florida
yes,
with all the different lines.
yes,
So
yes,
it's really just it's a matter of reaching out to them, proper letterhead,
yeah,
professionalism, reaching out to them, and then following up, and then getting on these visitor lists, which
mm,
are very important, to be able to shake hands with people, to be able to shake hands with the officers, and most important,
yeah,
you're if you're a lawyer and you're playing golf with another lawyer,
yeah,
you have to be able to talk the verbiage of being a lawyer.
yeah, yeah,
So if you're going to be successful in this business, you have to be able to understand the business, the operations of the business, because you have limited time when you're on board these vessels or when you're meeting. They may ask for a representative to drive to Miami and to meet with in Miami. When you walk in that office, you have to understand the verbiage of
Yeah.
what they're speaking of.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to start to learn, if you're going to start to learn the business,
Yeah.
you're already behind.
Mm.
And these are very successful companies that could they could look through you, and they will know immediately whether or not you really understand their business.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of handshaking involved here, and there's a lot of reaching out to people. There's a lot of phone work involved, and this is not easy work. The other thing that's involved, Manuel, is that you have to understand that because of the change
Yeah.
of time,
Yeah.
you may be getting phone calls, Zoom calls at various times of the day. So, you have to be available for that. You have to be extremely energetic. You have to be aggressive. You have to be dedicated. You have to be all of the things that you have been in all these 20 years that has made you so successful. Because think about it. Every other day, there's a ship that's leaving Cape Canaveral. And then there's Jacksonville, and then there's Tampa. I mean, there's just so much going on. And there's one thing about the cruise industry is that it never stops.
Yeah.
As a hotel manager, it was 9-10 months out of the year, and it's 24 hours a day. The hotel doesn't stop.
Yeah.
The passengers don't stop.
Yeah.
This industry doesn't stop either. It's 5,000 passengers come on, 5,000 passengers come off, and everything has to work like a chain.
Yeah.
And everything, and the number one source is not just petroleum. Petroleum is going to get the ship moving from point A to point B. But if you don't have the labor, then that ship cannot sail.
Yeah.
So the labor is of great importance. In fact, it's basically one of the most important, because the passenger does not understand what petroleum the ship uses.
Yeah.
They're never going to meet the guy who oils the ship down in the boiler room.
Yeah.
But they are going to meet the cabin steward. They are going to meet the dining room steward. They
Yeah.
are going to meet everyone who's in the public.
Yeah.
So those public employees, they have to be there.
Yeah.
The lines can't afford to not have them.
Yeah.
They have to be served. They have to be taken care of. So,
did you have a feeling in terms of supply that the group that's underground, that's not visible to the public, versus the public, is there a proportion? Is it a 60-40 division, that most of the possible people one would supply would be never interact really with
they would interact very, very little with the passenger. However, these ships have a crew bar that they could go to. These ships have smoking areas where they could all go to. These ships have gymnasiums that they could all go to. So it's not like the person who works in the oiler room is not going. He's not a caged-in employee. He's going to have at some point, he's going to see other crew members. He's going to live with other crew members. On the ship, we have what's called I-95. So I-95, we relate to as the bottom of the ship, where all the supplies are received, and the crew members go back and forward to their various restaurants, to their various places, to where they work. So during their interaction in I-95, they see each other, they chat with each other. They have their time off when they get off the ship. They have a few hours where they can go to the beach. They can go to a small restaurant in town.
Yeah.
So they do have a life. The
Yeah.
only situation is that because of their level of education, or because of their appearance, or because they don't have the customer service skills that are required, or the people skills that are required,
Yeah.
they end up with the job that's not prestigious.
Yeah.
However, that same employee would not have a prestigious job with you over in the farm.
Yeah, no, that's true. What I more meant with my question is, in your estimation, with the cruise ships that need the labor, more will be looking for people in the dining room side, the public side, or
It's
both
it's
sides?
it's going to be everything. I could
Oh,
create the
okay.
list. It would be everything in general,
Yeah,
because the food the ship, there's not one employee on the ship
yeah,
that's of any more importance than another one.
okay. And they
So
treat it that way too. Is that
oh,
right? Okay.
that's of most important. That's of
Okay.
most importance. That's the way they're treated.
Mhm.
So the oiler is going to have the same benefits as the person who works in the dining room. The only
Okay.
difference is that most likely that oiler
Yeah,
didn't have the customer service skills
yeah,
to take
yeah,
on the job with the general public,
yeah, yeah.
because the general public is very demanding, and
Okay.
they have to know how to handle situations that are arrive.
Yeah,
Some of the newer ships, they have less oilers,
yeah.
because the ships, they run on LNG
Oh,
gas.
yes,
So
yeah,
as a result, they may require less,
yeah.
but still it's of great importance.
Okay.
Yeah, of
Uh,
course, it's very hot down there. It's
yeah,
very
yeah,
hot down
yeah,
there, and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's not a prestigious job at all. But
yeah.
uh, I owned a farm
Oh,
for
okay,
yes, I owned a thoroughbred racehorse farm
okay,
for
okay.
20 years, and there was nothing
Sure.
prestigious about what I did, other than when I went to sales
Yeah,
to sell my yearlings to
yeah,
international trainers, and
okay.
I was able to, of course, sell my horses, whether they were
Yeah.
crooked or they were of perfect conformation to my buyers. So
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I understand the aspect of farming. In fact, when when I went on board,
Mhm.
and when I worked in operations for the cruise lines, after which I accumulated that money, and money that I had accumulated from being in the hotel industry,
Yeah.
since my college years. I've worked all my life since I'm 15 years old, and so I decided to put those monies together,
Mm.
and we purchased a horse farm in Ocala, Florida.
Oh, oh, yes,
So,
okay. Yeah,
Ocala is the horse capital of the world,
that's
and
right. Yeah.
and did that for 20 years until
That's good.
I'm aging myself now.
Yeah, yeah.
I was 49 years old until I told you this, and basically we we were able to sell it successfully, and
Sure,
that
sure,
that farm consists of 31 acres,
sure.
and I
Okay.
we kept 13 mares
Yeah, yeah,
on that farm at all times.
sure.
So,
Yeah,
I know what hard work is all about,
yeah.
and I know that, my goodness, people who are in agriculture are very, very, very hardworking people. However, I could also I am also a big fan to say that the investment of 22 years
Mm,
paid out to be wonderfully,
mm,
because
mm,
I was able to sell
mm.
this farm
Yeah,
very successfully.
yeah, yeah.
So
Like,
today I have the opportunity to have a neighbor like Sir Wayne John. And Sir Wayne John is only a millionaire, so I get to live at his same status. So yes, I can attest that
Yeah,
definitely agriculture
yeah,
could be very, very,
sure.
it could be very promising and very rewarding.
Yeah.
And but the cruise industry is just as rewarding. You
Mm.
just have to put your head down. You have to work hard, and you have to put in your 14 hours a day. Do the dual employment throughout the day,
Mm.
and be smart. When you get off the ship, and you go to port, that's the time to
Mm.
maybe, I don't know,
Mm.
have a little sandwich somewhere.
Yeah.
But be good, and be smart with your money,
Mm.
and so that at the end of the 7 months or 9 months, you can get off that vessel and you have something to prove for it.
Mm.
Now, something that's important is,
Yeah.
and you may want to make note of this, is that some cruise lines will purchase your cruise ticket. Other cruise
Oh,
lines will say no.
for the worker?
Yes, for the worker.
Okay.
Some cruise lines, they do purchase the. I'll give you an example. Royal Caribbean will purchase your fare from South Africa to
Oh, that's what you mean. The flight
yeah,
to get there.
yeah, your
Okay.
flight, yeah, your
Okay.
flight
Okay.
and your return flight. And then
Okay.
remember, when you join the vessel,
Yeah.
then you have to give them, of course, your C1D visa. You have to give them your paperwork, your certifications, and you give them your flight ticket. And then that
Okay.
flight ticket is filed under your name with your complete file. Now,
You mean they keep it in their possession so you wouldn't?
that goes in the safe.
Okay.
That
Okay.
goes in the general safe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the guest services office, and
Okay.
there's a crew member who's called he's one of the pursers, and he takes care, crew member purser, and he takes care of all the documentations of every cruise member. Now, if you misbehave on board the ship,
Yeah.
you need to be sent home.
Yeah.
Then we will meet you at the crew gangway, and you will have your passport and you'll have your ticket back home, and
Okay.
you will be paid for the balance
Mm.
of the monies that you've earned.
Okay.
And then now it's your obligation
Mm.
to make it back home.
Okay. Interesting.
We always try to have a crew member depart from the States,
Mhm.
so they could also collect their monies here in a U.S. bank.
Mm. What if
So
they
that's why we
misbehave?
we
What if
encourage
they?
crew members
Yeah.
to use large banks,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
they could deposit their monies, and they could draw from their money if they're in a different state,
Mm.
as opposed to a small bank.
Yeah. Just out of interest, if he misbehaves and he's in Tortilla or whatever,
Okay. If you
what do they do then?
so the way it works, Manuel, is we have most ships today have 9 cells, prison cells.
Oh, okay.
So there's
Okay.
two choices. If the
Okay.
if the prison cell is too busy with passengers,
Yeah.
then we would have 2
Uh,
security guards outside that crew member's cabin,
okay.
and then
Hmm.
they would watch him. They would give him. He would be served his 3 meals a day,
Yeah.
and he would stay there up until the moment that the ship arrives to
Okay.
the U.S.
Okay. Interesting. Very
And then
interesting. Yeah.
we would advise immigration
Mm.
that Manuel Fick had to be disembarked from the ship, and for whatever the reason was, and then immigration will keep an eye on you and
Mm.
make certain that you get on your flight back home.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, it's good to know that too. Good to know. One never thinks of it as a
Yes. No, because
cruiser person.
these are all things that pertain to us.
Yeah.
Now, we're not talking about the meals of the ship. We don't
Yeah.
care about the shows of the ship. Our
Yeah.
conversation is strictly the crew member, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's where 100% of the dedication has to be. It's
Yeah.
all about the crew and nothing else.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
care if the ship is showing rust, and we don't care who the captain of the vessel is. Our biggest concern is the crew member 100%, and especially that crew member
Yeah.
that is representing the company.
Yeah. Okay.
Now,
Anyway. Oh,
I
yeah.
would imagine also, that because the idea is to have a good relationship
Mm.
on board, that staff captain or
Mm.
that HR manager would be able to give me a call and say, Eddie, we had a situation
Mm.
with the crew member and you can't save him. Nobody can save him.
Yeah.
He definitely has to disembark the vessel.
Mm.
And
Mm.
now we are aware, and
Mm.
I could contact the corporate office and let them know that this gentleman is on his way and he's been terminated.
Yeah. 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 No, no, that happens, people do stay human beings. Our business would be so much easier. I mean, this week I had people got injuries. I had one die. I had one burn up in a field fire, dying from it.
Sure.
Another one burn up in a tractor in a fire that happened. And so we have lots of challenges daily.
Exactly.
Uh, Eddie, tell me a little bit, if I may ask, you've now got an idea, and I think we two could make something work. It sounds like it. What role did you think you would play? What was your hope, and what did
So
you think? That would
I
be great.
I mentioned to you that I think the best role, the role, the word that best describes what we would be doing here in Cape Canaveral would be operations. To
Okay.
me, the word operations covers basically the whole entire scope of what we would be doing.
Okay.
To me, I think
Yeah.
that's where it best falls.
Okay. But you still have energy and vision to be so deep into a business situation with all the nuts and bolts, or because
Well, I'm asking. I want to ask you a question.
yeah, yeah.
How how do I present?
No, no, you present really well, and yeah.
And how is the energy of my voice?
No, no, still fantastic also.
Okay,
But I
so
just didn't know if you were retired
yeah,
like
well,
Wayne and you
but
want to
then,
play golf all the time,
no,
maybe,
no.
and
First
you
of
can.
all, no, I'm not a golfer. I love to work,
Neither am I.
and this
Yeah.
is to me, this would be hard work. It would
Okay.
be. I've described to you what the role would be. However, it's not something that I couldn't do from my home den where I'm speaking to
Yeah.
you from, or from my laptop if I
Yeah.
had to visit my mother.
Okay.
I would always have a phone with me. I would always have a laptop with me. I would always be within reach. And I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's really it. I do take at least 2 to 3 cruises a year,
Okay. Okay.
which is also good
Yeah.
because during that time I'm making additional contacts. I'm shaking hands with different people, and it's very important because I'm also seeing other crew members. And I'll give you a great idea. So I was thinking about this the other day.
Yeah.
The Philippines, you don't have anyone in the Philippines.
No, not at the moment. Only reason why is the H2A program limits me to 80 countries.
Hmm.
And 90% of Africa was not included, so I couldn't go to any of those countries except Mozambique, South Africa, Swaziland, Lesotho, and that's it, and Mauritius. And I don't have anybody in Mauritius. And then the East was totally excluded for us to even recruit. So that's why I have nobody there. But we can probably, if within a short period, get people identified and put them in place. But just to be honest, that's why I have nobody there, Eddie.
So just so you know, Indonesia
Yeah,
and the Philippines are of great importance.
yeah,
And the reason being is that, of course, they're underdeveloped nations, countries,
mm,
and the Indonesian and the Philippines, they do speak good English,
Yeah.
and they are very sought out after because they are honest, very honest. They're great team players, and they're very good with the passengers,
Mm-hmm.
and most of all, they're very loyal to the company. And
Okay.
they do, most of them have that success rate that we're talking about, which is the 94 to 96%. They're very, very, very loyal, and
Okay.
they put in the time plus, they put in the time plus,
Yeah.
and they're not they're not out to they're not out for romance. They understand that it's all about business. They send their money home. They bring money home, and basically what they're doing is they put in 6, 7, 8 years in the industry, and
Mm-hmm.
then they become the business people back home. So
Okay.
something that we as a well something that Americans do is they go on board these ships,
Yeah.
and they see their dining room waiter working every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and at the end of the cruise, they feel sorry for these people. They
Yeah.
feel sorry for the
Yeah.
crew.
Yeah. I do too. I'm sorry, but I do
Yeah,
also
yeah,
because
yeah.
I,
No, it's
yeah.
great. I have a lot of empathy for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, over the years, I've learned what most people don't know, and that is, and I could be of great influence to the upcoming crew member, which is they become, after 7 years, they become the business people
Mm.
of their cities and towns,
Mm.
and then they're investing that
Mm.
money, and then after 7, 8 years, most of them don't come back, and if they do come back, they have access to an iPhone, an iPad,
Mm.
and they're running their business from the ship. They have their wives, their brothers, their sisters, and these are the people who are actually living real well in their countries.
Yeah. 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 That is excellent. And that I would say similar things happen with South Africans, I would think. Um, and many are, they take that money that they make because the dollar exchange is 1 to 20. When you go back
Uh-huh.
to South Africa, 18 at the moment, it came down and it's 17. So
Mhm.
it's a lot of money. I mean, a worker from a farm making his 3,000, $3,500 to 5,000 if he works overtime in the busy season, translating that or exchanging it to South African rand makes them unbelievably wealthy in the South
Exactly.
African context. So I assume
Mhm.
something similar happens here.
And there's something else. There's something else that the crew member, you have to talk to the crew member.
Mm,
This
mm,
is because this is how I started my conversation. That this is why the contact is important. The
mm,
contact is important because you have to not only be an influence to the crew member that's
mm,
coming on, but you have to be a word of wisdom for
mm,
them,
mm,
because
mm.
not only are they from experience, not
Yeah,
only are they going to be wealthy in their countries after a
yeah,
certain amount of time, but they're also going to have the opportunity to speak to other people
yeah.
that are at the same level
Mm,
while on board the ship. They get to speak to passengers who are extremely smart,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they get to listen into they overhear conversations. They get to see how the ship is so successful, so
Mm,
they learn business.
yeah,
It's for them, it's like going to the university.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
At the
That's
end of the
true.
day,
Mm,
you ask a crew member, "What did you learn today?" And you'd be surprised what they would tell you.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
just from serving a guest while guests are talking to each other, they're listening,
yeah.
and they know what businesses they want to get into. They
Mm,
know what they want to do. They know what they're cut out for.
mm,
So
mm.
you have to think of the crew member. The crew member is a prized individual.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a prized individual.
Mm,
Now, he won't be a prized individual unless you mold him to be that prized individual.
Mm.
So that comes with molding. You have to mold them for the opportunity.
Do you see that what you just spoke about happening to the other similar people like what we thinking of doing here? My future competitors, do they do this that you say?
I'll tell you what they do, because like I said, I lived in this business,
Yeah.
and I tell you, this is what I was telling Sir Wayne John.
Mhm.
I was telling Sir Wayne John, if we could do this in a professional way, like these small satellites are not doing, the price would be grand. Because I can assure you that the small satellite offices they're working on kickbacks. They're working on hiring the young lady because she's cute, or because he knows her sister or her brother. And this is where they're going wrong. And major corporations today, like all these lines, they cannot afford to deal with this type of a recruiter. If you were a recruiter for the U.S. Army or the U.S. Air Force,
Yeah.
you would have to be a top-notch individual. And I walk into that office, and you would have to give me the whole spiel of what I'm getting into, what I'm doing, the advantages of what I'm doing. You would show me films, you would show me clips. I mean, that is the way you do it. And I would be vetted. I would have to take exams. This is what is needed. And then when you reach out to these companies, when you reach out to these cruise lines, and you tell them, this is what we do. We do A, B, C, and D, and E, and F, and G, and H before we present you a crew member.
Yeah.
They would be amazed.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
That's good to hear. That's good to hear.
because when you think about 300,000 crew
Yeah.
members,
Yeah.
the numbers are very large.
Yeah.
And like I told you, it is consistent in and out. Disembarkation of crew members, embarkation of crew members, and you have to that steak has to go from the kitchen to the dining room, and it has to be served by a crew member.
And still hot. A lot too.
You
The steak better be hot when it gets to the table.
and it's got to be hot, and it has to be cooked to the standard of the guests.
Yeah.
So
No, that's
this is what I'm talking about. I on this last cruise that I was on with my wife, because I love this industry. And on this last cruise that I was on, like I told you, I spoke to several crew members. The crew member from Kenya, he left a wonderful first impression on me.
okay.
And I would have given him 10 cards.
Yeah.
And I would have introduced myself to him, and I would have said, this is what we do.
Yeah.
And it was a great pleasure to meet you. And now I would like for you to take these 10 cards, and I would like for you to distribute them to people who, like you, could pass the test and could be on this vessel, and they will do it. I saw two dancers that were dancing in the wrong side of the ship. So they were dancing at the cabaret.
Okay.
And they were Colombian, and Colombia is one of the very, very good countries.
Okay.
You make a note there for Colombia. And they were outstanding dancers. And rather than having these dancers dance at the cabaret, I would have taken those two dancers. Had I been the hotel manager of that ship, I would have placed them at the main theater. Now, if I gave a business card to those two dancers, and I said to them, as soon as you get off the ship, as soon as your contract is completed, I want you to contact me, because I would place you at a better place on board the vessel, where we would triple your salary, and you would get that major applause that you look for every day that you dance. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Fantastic. Absolutely. I love that. I love what you're saying. And that's, you know, our philosophy is unlocking people in our company, is making sure you blossom into the best person you can become with the talents you've got and what you have to give. And hopefully somebody will pay you for all of it so you have money and
and then,
to
yep.
follow your
And
dream.
I'll go one step further.
Yeah.
I'll go one step further. I met Israelis,
Yeah.
Israelis,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Israelis, Israelis that were, we chatted. I met
Yeah.
Israelis that were working at shops
Yeah. Yeah.
at the various islands.
Yeah. Yeah,
Why?
that's
Why?
true. They
Why?
often on the islands, especially the jewelry stores.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why are they not
On
working,
the
or why
ship.
don't they
Yeah.
have the
Why aren't they
opportunity?
on the ship? Yeah, that's true. And I love Israel. I would
Mhm.
love to help if I can. Uh,
So, and
yeah.
I met some Mexicans that were very highly educated,
Yeah.
working. They were working in a store for nothing, and
Yeah.
that's when you establish a little bit of a bond, and you give them a
Yeah.
card, and you say, how would you like how would you
Yeah.
like to
Yeah.
how would you like to reach out? I can understand your language. The
Yeah.
same the same with the all the Israelis that
Yeah.
I was meeting throughout the shops and the
Yeah.
stores. My
Yeah.
God, the prettiest young ladies and the handsome guys, and they were working for contract companies
Yeah.
that I'm sure they were
Yeah.
paying them very badly, and
I,
I know that the
yeah.
work conditions were very
Yeah.
bad.
No, I
You
agree
know,
with you.
are
You know,
you
I
are
just
you
thought, yeah, no, say, ask your question.
yeah, are you a corporation? Are you an LLC? Are you
I'm
incorporated?
a S Corp, and I have another company called USAFL Development, which I could use immediately as a entity that's separate from my USA Farm Labor. At
Right.
one time, I had the name Pluto, which stood for Placing Labor and Unique Trade Opportunities. It was an acronym.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, and I used it, but in my farming world, people were thinking it was too Mickey Mouse. So I
Right.
changed the name to USA Farm Labor. But we could always revive that name again if one wants to. So,
I would recommend that somewhere it says cruises.
yeah, no, I thought of the
Yeah,
same thing.
yeah.
Cruise
Because
cruises. Yeah, yeah,
this way, that this way
yeah,
they can relate to it, because not everybody has the same level of education, and
yeah,
not everybody has the same aptitude,
yeah.
and they could confuse one card with another, and then
Totally.
think that they've lost the card, that they've lost the contact. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, absolutely. Now, I'm thinking of a name of something like International Cruise Labor. Uh,
Right.
it's descriptive of cruises, descriptive of the word labor. I don't
Right.
know if
No,
that would
see
be the
now.
right, that's a, we can, yeah.
So when you use the word, I know I don't want you to misunderstand me,
No, 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 please
but
say,
when
please.
you use the word labor for cruises,
It's,
you're
yeah,
reminding them
yeah,
of the hard work that's
yeah,
involved. Where if
yeah,
you use if you use a word that's more festive,
yeah, yeah,
then it's something that I think that they
yeah.
would better relate to. But
Uh,
you
we,
would know that better.
yeah, we'll work on a name that will be beautiful and so on for sure, Eddie. Um, give me a bit of a feel. I have a question that's burning, which I'm very comfortable that my recruiters will easily jump in to take this on, and all the people that they get that apply that don't fit the agricultural world
Right.
will be lovely because they're already talking to them. They call us in their thousands. What do they get paid broadly for? What is the income potential?
The income level is based on the position that they work in, the capacity, and it's based on the line. So
Okay. Okay.
each cruise, I knew that you would ask me that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
However, there's so many different lines.
Okay.
We would have to get a current list from
Okay.
each of the lines as to what those that pay is,
Okay.
because like I said, it changes, and
Yeah.
because don't we're remember how well they're going to do in South Africa when they do the currency exchange
Yeah.
also.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to take that into account. So each cruise line is going to pay a different rate depending on the flag that the ship carries.
So, do you think that the art people, because they did give me some numbers there, would be so much different in what they are
Well,
considered?
an
Yeah.
art an art dealer is, let's suppose an art dealer is selling Manuel Vic and Mr. and Mrs. Vic a very nice piece of art. There's some dollars involved in the Vic. You need some good representation. You need someone who's astute to sell the piece of art.
Yeah.
That person is going to get paid a good salary.
Yeah.
A casino dealer is going to get paid much more than a dining room attendant. I mean, each position is going to bring a different
Yeah.
level.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned the massage people. The
Yeah.
massage people, they have their own company and they provide their own employees.
Okay. Okay.
So it's very hard unless you have a South African who is highly certified.
Yeah.
Then perhaps you could sell that you could work with that employee with another agency, but
Mm.
then you may get a cut of it, but you may not get
Yeah.
much of it.
Okay. And that's the same as the art. It looks like
Right.
Park West has the exclusive agreement with nearly all the cruise lines to supply
Exactly.
their
Well,
labor. Yeah.
but I'll tell you one thing though. Like I knew the owner of Effie Jewelers,
Oh,
and
yes.
yeah,
Okay.
and I have to tell you, while you could buy a piece of jewelry at Effie
Yeah.
for endless amounts of money, his
Yeah.
his people were not very well paid at all.
I
So
wouldn't be
the
surprised.
an
Yeah.
art dealer may be living on board.
Yeah.
Husband and wife team, you said they are?
Well, they were, I think they were willing to pay them $1,500 a month, and then
Okay.
free food,
Right.
free
Room and board.
boarding,
Yeah.
and the washing. And
Right.
once I have all that detail somewhere, I just don't see it in front of me now. But
Right.
I was just thinking, if we broadly can say to each other, at least the worker, no matter what level where he's at, will maybe make $1,500. Is that a half fair to say, or is
We
that
don't, we don't, we wouldn't want to jump on that
okay?
because
Okay.
you want to be able to present, you want to be able to present the crew member who's certified for the specific position to tell him what the specific pay
Mm,
is for
mm,
that position.
mm,
Now, while he's on board, he may he may think for him to himself, you know what?
mm.
I could do this other position
Yeah. Yeah.
and get paid a little bit more,
Mm,
but the starting wage
yeah.
should be the starting wage of that position,
Mm,
as to not falsely motivate
yeah.
an
Yeah.
employee
Yeah.
based on pay.
Yeah. Okay.
That would be
Yeah. And
atrocious.
that's the same with us. That's why
Yeah,
we know and we've projected, and we can
yeah,
tell a person, and it's the biggest mistake if you create false
yep,
expectations and
yep,
you
yep. I would
promise lie. So,
I
yeah.
would I would think that it's best in their contract letter or
Mm.
their offer letter. I don't
Yeah.
know what you provide, an offer letter or a
Yeah, yeah,
contract
we have
letter.
a
That it
15-page contract we provide
okay,
our workers with. So, yeah,
and that in one of those 15 pages that you're able to show what that wage is going to be on board.
yeah,
Now,
mm,
if later on they feel they could do something better and they want to
yeah,
talk to the hotel manager on board the ship, and they could and they could act, they'll be put to a test to see if they could actually do that position, and they want to go ahead and increase their salary, then that's a whole different story.
Okay.
But they should start at the contract level.
Yeah, yeah. Do you maybe have, so one doesn't, if one starts running down this road, have to restart the wheel, contracts that ships do give workers, so one could easily modify the ones we have to include the right verbiage that's needed. Is that something you could lay your hands on?
Well, it's going to be very important today
Yeah,
that as much education as possible the crew member receives prior. Like
yeah,
I know Sir Wayne John told me that you actually make an investment back home where you have trucks and
yeah,
tractors and
yeah,
you actually,
yeah,
so you don't have to do that in
yeah,
the
yeah,
industry, in the cruise
yeah,
industry. You
yeah,
just have to certify that if you're a waiter, we
yeah,
want to know where in Zimbabwe, what hotel did you work for, and
yes,
that all that reference is taken care of.
yeah,
Then they get their contract letter. It tells them how much they can earn on an hour, what they're going to earn on an hourly basis, and then of course tips are separate. And then a list of those employees who could receive a tip and those who will never see a tip on board. Now, there's something very important now that has changed in the cruise industry.
oh yes.
I feel like I'm sharing a lot of my secrets with you.
No,
And
no, yes,
tomorrow,
yeah.
tomorrow you may hire someone to fill my capacity. Listen,
No, I don't have another person, Eddie, and
I'm,
from
I'm
the loyalty principle with
yeah,
Wayne, you
yeah.
don't have to worry about it. I
So
promise you. Yeah,
there was a time when you went on board a cruise line and you received 4 envelopes on the last day of your cruise.
oh yeah,
One envelope was for the head waiter, your
yeah,
waiter. The other envelope was for the busboy, and the other envelope was for your cabin steward
oh yes, that's
and
right.
his assistant.
Yeah,
But things have changed because passengers, and that is all passengers included, American, UK, all throughout the world, they were actually receiving the services from the crew members, but they were stiffing the crew member. In other words, at the end of the voyage,
mhm,
those 4 envelopes,
yeah,
they took them home empty in their
uh,
suitcases, and they
uh,
were not leaving the
yeah.
proper tips to the
Okay,
crew.
okay.
So then now the cruise lines, because they were having issues and problems manning the ships with crew, they decided to change things around. Like, for example, my wife and I just got off a ship last month. We paid $16 a day
Yeah,
per person,
yeah,
and that is paid directly to the cruise line. And
yeah.
then the cruise line takes that money and then they evenly distribute that money
That's a
among
that's
the
a good
crew.
system, good fair system. I saw that too, and you,
It's a good system.
yeah,
I've spoken to more than 50 crew members,
yeah,
trying to get them to explain to me how it works. And I have not received one good explanation because this is something that's been implemented after I was on board.
okay,
Okay, this
okay,
is something new now.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
uh, my last and most faithful observation from a crew member was I asked him straight out forward. I said, Emmanuel, I would like you to tell me, how are you better off if I place my cash tip for you in an envelope
mm,
or if I'm part of the service that the cruise line is providing me? He said, oh, no, please, sir. If you would be so kind, I would prefer that you give it to me directly
oh,
because
yeah,
yes. So
mm,
my and after being in this industry for 7 years, I'm shameful to say, and this is only something that I share with you.
Yeah.
But I'm shameful to say that it concerns me
Mm.
that all this 16.50 and some cruises $18 and some people who have balconies $23
Yeah. Yeah.
a day per person.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit concerned that that pool of money that is being handed to the cruise line,
Mm.
I don't understand what kind of caca math they're using,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it concerns me that they are in fact receiving their money. So it's going to be very hard to. You can only guarantee a crew member what they're going to earn per hour,
Mm.
and
Mm.
then
Mm.
you would have to explain to them that there's an incentive involved for
Mm.
the rest of the crew. But if you're a cabin steward, that also includes the guy who cuts the onions,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it also includes the guy who folds the towels at the
Yeah.
pool.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
it's
So you think they take that 16 and split it amongst a lot of people now?
yeah, I do.
Oh,
I do.
okay.
That's 16 per person.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
and I think it's almost like a socialistic way
Yeah.
of
Yeah. Yeah.
dispersing money, because
Yeah.
they give a little bit to everybody. So
Yeah.
then what happens, in my opinion, is the guy who's a real go-getter,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
guy who really is going to want to bring you your meal hot and is
Mm.
attentive and is
Mm.
courteous and
Mm.
is a smiler, he may lose a bit of his motivation
That's right.
because,
That's right.
hey,
Yeah.
everybody is going to get the same money in the end. But
Yeah.
they had to do something because the crew members were not wanting to come back on board
Mm.
because the passengers were
Mm.
not leaving them the money. They were walking off the ship without leaving them the money.
Do you have an idea or a theory why the passengers stopped tipping? Is it just
And I'll tell you why. There's
yeah,
a gift shop. There's a gift shop on board. There's an art dealer on board.
you
There's
just
a casino on board.
spend
Yeah,
all
there's
their
a
money?
casino on board.
Mm.
There's tours on board.
Mm.
There's a drink package. There's just
Yeah.
endless. So if you go on board a ship
Yeah.
with $200 to spend,
Yeah.
really, when you think about it, those $200, you can't yield that money discretionally
Mm.
amongst all the various the venues that you
Yeah.
have and
Yeah.
options that you have to
Yeah.
spend that money.
I agree with you. You better be wealthy, and if you don't, if you don't have it, and you just go on a cruise, but you're in a middle class income, and you think it's your once in a lifetime thing, you'll spend it on lots of stuff, but except for tips. I fully agree with
And
you.
at the end, they don't think about the person who's being of service to them.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the voyage, when they see the envelopes, they say, Sally, what's this for? And Bob says to her, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? And then the next question is going to be, we're not spending any more money than we already have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We paid for this whole cruise. Why do they want more money?
Yeah, or no, or we paid for it 1 year in advance.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
crew member, either they hide from him to
yeah,
get off the ship,
yeah.
or they give him a big hug, take a picture with him,
Mm,
but they actually don't leave him the
mm,
monies that he worked for
mm,
7 days, 3 days, 4 days, 2 weeks.
mm.
So this is why the cruise lines had to do this.
Okay.
But they're also very smart,
Yeah,
because if you buy a cruise for yourself and Kathy,
yeah,
and suppose you buy a cruise and you book it 1 year in advance,
yeah.
they're taking that 1650 for you and
Uh,
1650 for
a year,
Kathy,
a
and
year,
then
and
they're working with that money
uh,
1 year in advance before
yeah,
they have to actually dispense it.
yeah, yeah.
So
That's
that's
very
that's
interesting.
what I have an issue with.
Yeah,
However,
yeah,
however,
yeah,
you could go as a passenger. The best thing you could do is you could go to the front desk. You could go to
yeah.
guest services, and on the third day of your cruise, and you could tell them, listen, I would like for you to reverse the charges.
Oh, interesting.
And they're going to say, Mr. Fick, is anything wrong? Was anything wrong? You say no. Everything has been great. It's just that, I'm a business person, and my philosophy is to reward the crew member that takes care of me directly. So I would like for you to give me 4 envelopes. And then they give you 4 envelopes. And then the last night of the cruise, you pay directly your your waiter, and you pay directly his assistant, and you pay directly the cabin steward and the assistant cabin steward. And then this way, they're out of the pool. Then they're going to take that 1650, and you're going to see on your charges on the TV, you'll see that they've reversed it and they've credited the 1650. They've debited the 1650. Sorry, and they no longer appear in your account. All you have to tell them is, I'd like to pay them directly. They appreciate it more.
Yeah, very interesting.
So I hope that gives you an idea of why it's so difficult to answer that question. It would have to have, we would have to have a list of the various positions, which are many, and the hourly wages. And then you would have to have that master list for each of the cruise lines. For example, Disney takes more pride in what they pay their workers. Royal Caribbean is the second one that takes more pride in what they pay their workers. However, to get a cruise member, to get a crew member on Disney, Manuel, is going to be extra hard, because their standards are very, 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 very high. And because there's children on the ship, it has to be someone who's passed all the background checks and the criminal checks, and it's got to be an outstanding applicant before they'll even look at him. Or consider.
Yeah, that could be interesting and challenging to get those type of things. Like even in South Africa, of corruption, you can buy a police clearance very easily within 2 days, versus a real one can cost you quite a bit of money and take a long time. But if one puts it in place, people can know, listen, I better go get the expensive one, the comprehensive one. So I'm sure they will.
And of course, vetting. When you're able to tell the cruise line, I've done this, and this, and also the employee was personally vetted. You know what I'm saying? That is very important. That's when and of course, the other issue is, you don't want to spend all of your time vetting a prospective crew member and then having him fail the test with immigration. Or, because then you lost all your opportunity. So, there are times when, the gentlemen and the ladies, they have their personalities, and they're going to want you to fail the test. If you give them any indication that you could be a flight risk, or that, based on how you project yourself, project yourself as someone who may want to go on board the ship because he's dying to meet a Canadian or an American, and establish a bond with her, exchange emails, exchange Facebook addresses, and then tell you that he's getting married 2 months later, and then you lose a crew member. Or better yet, a worse would be for that crew member to be caught in her cabin. So you're dealing with a lot of testosterone here. You're dealing with young men. You're dealing with middle-aged men. You're dealing with men that have been away from their families for 7 months, 9 months. There's a lot of temptation. The ladies, they're all over the ship, and they're all in bikinis. There's a lot of temptations. As an operations person, I went to many trials where shipboard personnel was charged
Mm.
for different reasons by family members who never cared to follow up on their 12-year-old or their 15-year-old on board. They would come on board the ship, and the young ladies, they would forget about them completely.
Yeah.
And then a tragic situation would take place. And we had one case that I'll never forget, cost us $5.5 million.
Ooh. Ooh. Ooh.
So you can imagine how vetting a crew member is of great importance. And then, of course, on board the vessel, they're going to have a lot of follow up themselves. Their crew members look out after crew members, and there's a lot of lines of supervision on board. And if they catch you out of hand, they're going to correct you, write you up, or they'll just let you go if they feel that you have some type of a psychosis that you can't control yourself.
Sure. Yeah. Those
No
are
different, no different than you.
no,
different than what you
it's
do.
true. It's true.
Farm owners have daughters and
Yeah.
sisters and aunts and
Yeah.
even wives. So it's basically the same. The only thing that changes, Manuel, always remember the volume that's involved, the volume of opportunity, but also the volume in each and every vessel.
Yeah. And the problems exponentially grow.
Yeah.
The challenges and the incidents and so on.
You came on board this last vessel you were on, and you had a wonderful time. I understand, you and your wife.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of time with the art dealer.
Yeah.
The art dealer. He has to comport himself as a salesperson.
Yeah.
He's not exactly a bar waiter or one of the the dining room workers. So he has to be able to be a more controlled individual. But you're not in the business of just providing art dealers and art salesmen to the ship.
Yeah.
You're looking at providing crew members in general.
Yeah.
To all aspects, to all positions. I don't want to scare you. I just want you to keep these things in the back of your mind. Because one bad apple, could ruin the opportunity for the other, 200 or 300 that you have lined up for an opportunity.
Yeah. No, I mean, I lose clients all the time because of my workers and things they do. And drinking is a big problem among South Africans. Just, they can start drinking at 18. Here in America, they can't drink till they're 21.
Exactly.
So the culture changed and the farmers stopped taking the young people because they were too, never could manage or not. And it's not all of them, but a big number of them. They away from their parents, their house, their family, their
Sure, I understand.
and those things. So yeah, so that's probably one of the things we'll have the biggest challenge with.
Well, we actually, I have good news because this is the good news for the drinkers.
Okay.
So for those that are drinkers, we supply, or we provide is the better word. We provide what's called the crew bar.
Okay.
At the crew bar, because we buy all of this liquor internationally, we're able to sell a crew member a beer, let's say for $1.25.
Okay.
So that crew member would go and he would charge a card that we give him. He charges the card with cash, and then he could go to that crew bar and he could have a beer and he could have two.
Yeah.
There's a minimum as to how much they could have. And then if the bartender feels that he's had enough, then he can no longer make another purchase. And we are able to see just how many drinks they have every time they visit. So if they're
Fantastic.
having more than they're supposed to,
Yeah.
we would visit the bartender and ask him, why are you
Oh.
serving this man the additional? You see?
That will
So
help tremendously, Eddie.
it's a very controlled
Yeah,
environment.
yeah,
Now,
that's perfect.
if they steal a bottle of champagne and divide it into 3 or 4 crew members,
Yeah,
they're not gonna get super drunk anyway, or a
yeah,
bottle of wine.
yeah.
But that's how they go to the crew bar, and
Yeah.
at the crew bar, that's where they socialize,
Mm,
and that's where they, couples are created.
mm,
They're very bonded.
mm,
It's
mm,
very hard. It's
mm,
very hard to break the crew because the
mm,
crew is a family.
mm,
They
mm.
protect each other. They are amazingly strong
Yeah,
because they all know that they're in this together,
okay.
and they all miss their families equally. So
Yeah,
they're very bonded.
yeah. That's
Um,
interesting. One will
yeah,
probably have to look at the kind of person we find because with the farmers, the funny thing is there's a lot of my clients have only 4 workers. They take only 4. So
right.
that little 4 can either be a good click, have a great relationship, be precisely the way, or
Uh-huh.
you find that some aren't team players, they don't want to participate, and so
Mhm.
on. And those are some of the testing that we did at one time to see to what extent can we manage that and put a crew together. And that's why we gave these specific tests to our farmers so they can help look and decide what people they put in their mix. So,
So
yeah.
as a hotel manager, for example, on a weekly basis, I would receive a report that would tell me per department, by department, what was my percentages of nationalities. For
Oh,
example, we have 60 different nationalities on board a vessel.
mm,
Any ship has up to 60 different nationalities. However, you can't have one department that
yeah.
has 100%
Mm,
of
mm,
one nationality. You
mm.
understand?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
absolutely.
because what happens then is that's when the little
Yeah.
mafia start on
Yes.
board, and
Yes.
then that's when they start working for
Mm,
themselves and
mm,
not for the cruise ship. So
mm, mm,
if you have 18% Mexicans, you may have to have 12% of those from Honduras, and
mm,
maybe 11% from Jamaicans
mm.
and Filipinos. And so this way we break down the
Yeah.
possibilities of
Okay.
them creating situations that therefore we can't control.
Mm. Makes a lot
So
of sense
so
for sure.
so yes, so there is an entire science
Mm.
behind these vessels
Yeah.
because they are a moving city. I
Yeah.
mean, we have
Yeah.
morgues
Yeah.
where
Mm.
people perish
Yeah.
on board
Yeah.
the ship,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're placed in a morgue, and you have to know where exactly did they pass,
Yeah.
where was the ship more or less at,
Mm.
what was the area the ship
Mm.
was
Mm.
sailing in, so you can consider them passed away in that area,
Mm.
and they could comfortably go into a morgue. And then of course the prison is for those that are unruly, and they
Yeah.
get their 3 meals
Sure.
a day.
Yeah. And again, as a cruiser myself, one doesn't think about these things.
No, no, no.
Because, yeah.
Hopefully you're not thinking about these things. Of course, the next time you go on board, you're going to feel so much more educated
Absolutely.
about what is happening around you, but then you won't get to enjoy your beautiful wife. The idea, the i- the idea really, the idea really is to observe how the chain works,
Mm,
and to always think of how you could be part of the chain, how your company could
mm,
fit into the chain, or how your company could do it better.
mm, mm,
You
mm.
know, once you're on there, how your
Yeah.
company
Yeah.
could do it, how your company could do it better. And you have the advantage that you speak the language,
Mm,
and I speak 3. You speak, I don't know how many languages you speak, but when you go
Oh,
on board,
nearly
you
three.
so you would,
Yeah,
yeah, you would,
Afrikaans and English, and then a little German, but that's
yeah.
it.
So you would recognize your people,
Yeah.
and you would be able to, reach out to these people, and maybe you could leave a business card behind,
Mm,
which
mm,
there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. You're not recruiting the, you're not recruiting the crew member that's working on board. You're not asking him
yeah,
to walk off the ship.
yeah,
You're just introducing yourself so that he could share that card with other people back
yeah,
home,
yeah,
or maybe he would consider uh, giving your company a call in the future because you're gonna better vet him.
mm,
You're gonna maybe better find him, better place him.
mm,
So placing is very important because before you were the owner of this business, you probably had a job at some time where you were sitting in that job for a while and you weren't progressing in the job.
yeah,
That
yeah,
happens to all of us, and
yeah,
it especially happens to the crew member
mm,
where he's been
mm,
doing the same job. Not only does he do it 9 months out of the year, but
yeah,
he's doing it year after year.
yeah,
And then when he comes back, that's the only job that you could offer him again.
yeah,
And that's where the conversation with shipboard personnel comes in handy. And you could say, listen, this crew member, I understand that he's been very loyal to you and he's been outstanding for you based on his conversation with me. But could you consider seeing him in a different role?
mm,
And
mm,
if you can't consider it, would you even give him the opportunity for a week on
yeah,
his own time to fill in,
mm,
find him a uniform that fits that job description,
yeah,
and let him shadow
mm,
someone else, and
mm,
let's see if that person actually feels that he could do this because
yeah,
they want to progress. It's
yeah,
one of the biggest reasons why Filipinos and Indonesians
mm,
love to work for the cruise lines, and it's because of career advancement.
okay,
They,
okay,
they yes, they love the idea. You have no idea, Manuel. This last waiter who served us,
yeah,
he told me that when he first started working in the cruise lines,
yes,
he's from India. We also hire a lot of
yes,
Indians.
that's right. I've noticed that.
He
Yeah,
told us, he said, sir, when I first started working for the cruise lines, I was washing pots, he told me.
okay,
He
okay,
said, sir, the pots were so large that I had to place myself inside the pots in order to wash them perfectly so that the chef would,
yeah,
would see a perfectly washed pot. Now he's a dining room waiter.
mm,
On
mm,
top of that, on
yeah,
top of that, he's also the barber of the ship.
ah,
So all the
yeah,
crew members, they come on board very nicely clipped with a
yeah,
very nice haircut. But then 3 months later, it starts to grow.
mm,
But there's always a barber on board, and for a few dollars, that barber provides them the service,
yeah,
and 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 he makes the extra money. So they all have dual employment.
yes, yes,
So you could
interesting.
see you
Yeah,
could see the opportunities for
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, totally,
But
totally.
your recruiters need, they would each and every one of them, uh, from the best one
Mm,
to from the best,
yeah,
from the top of the line, they would really need to have a crash course, to have a conversation like what we're having, where they could ask various questions, where they could get various answers. And if the answer is I don't know, then the answer would be I will get back to you
mm,
personally on that question because things have changed
mm,
and I don't have that answer.
mm,
But some kind of an opportunity for each one of them to speak directly with me, or I don't like the idea of all together
mm,
because you lose the concentration. I like one at a time, and this way everybody's focused and
Yeah.
everybody is focused on the conversation, taking notes
Yeah.
and asking questions if need be, and getting a really good idea of the crew member that they're seeking. So when that crew member, so when a potential crew member stands before them, they know right away, based on our conversation, that that crew member is not for the ships.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Whether
Yeah.
because maybe they're not smilers, maybe
Yeah.
because they're not certified, maybe because they don't have the customer service skills, they don't have the people skills. All of these things are essential. It's going to be more than sowing seeds
Yeah.
on a tractor,
Yeah.
and
No, no.
that takes a lot of prestige,
Yeah.
a lot of precise
Yeah.
work, and those are professionals in themselves. But it's a completely different industry. I just think it's
Yeah.
not productive. Really, Manuel, I think it's not productive for you to have 1,000 people waiting in line, and you only have 1,500 jobs for them in one industry.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Why not?
It's a
Why
tough
not?
industry, in our industry, what makes us unique and gave us our success was there's 372,000 people that come on this visa that we offer,
Right. Mhm.
but they come as low-skilled hand pickers in the
Right.
vegetable, tomato, onion, whatever.
Right.
And our section was the niche market for people with higher skill, medium skills, and high skills.
Right.
So we answered that niche market and addressed it and provide people. And so where, you know, some of my competitors that are bigger, they have lots of Mexicans. They bring 50,000. One of them brings 50,000 Mexicans, but they're all hand pickers.
Right.
So in our case, we had to find the people that are able to drive a truck, drive a combine, drive a sprayer, operate a GPS system. So they
Right.
very educated people
Right.
and competent. But what
Mhm.
I'm knowing for the cruise ships, there's a lot of people in South Africa that's unemployed that have lots of skills that will be perfect for the cruise industry. That's
Right.
just being tapped or offered or verified or whatever. So
So Manuel,
yeah, yeah,
the difference can be specified in this. The C1D, did you write that down?
yeah. I
Okay.
we've looked at that visa category already and pulled the papers for it
Right.
and so on.
The
Yeah,
C1D visa, that's going to be for the crew member. Now you could see the visa that you use is the H1B visa, which is a specialty occupations.
yeah. We use H2A, Eddie, not H21B, H2A, which is a temporary seasonal agricultural visa.
Oh, okay. Because I've been reading about the H1B visa because that's the information I got from Jared. Which is the one that you use?
H2A.
H2A. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll research that.
yeah. There's a lot. We can send you stuff if you wanna. Jared could have given you a crash course on it, but
Yeah,
it's
well,
totally different than H1B.
yeah. Well, you
Mm.
got to remember something,
Yeah,
Manuel. Poor Jared. I was so overwhelming. I was overwhelming like I am
yeah,
with you.
yeah,
Of course, I'm highly motivated,
yeah,
but you're
yeah,
talking about an industry that I love.
yeah,
So
yeah.
maybe I didn't give Jared much time on one specific area,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I wanted him to come back to you and be
yes,
able to
yes,
tell you so
yeah,
much about the industry
yeah,
and get you on board.
yeah, yeah.
And so, but I'm very happy that I met with Jared. He's a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
kind,
He's
very
an
nice.
expert, Eddie, at my field. He's one of my salespeople that tell every new client how the program works, what the
Right.
rules are, the procedures, the timelines, the steps and the compliance requirements. And we have serious compliance issues where this cruise industry, because it's not US government regulated, except
Right,
for the visa part, it
right.
is much more, will be so much more flexible, easier than what we have to deal with, because we
Yes.
have to educate these farmers about so many rules and regulations and
Yeah.
stuff.
And remember, you're not making your investment, Manuel, because I thought you would ask me that at some point. What is my investment going to be?
Yeah.
Your investment here is going to be a satellite office, no different from what you already have.
Okay.
However, maybe it'll be more intense because it'll be an operations office. There may be more detail
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you think about it, um, I I would be working out of my home.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not like you have to put up an office. The
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
that the only thing that I would request is that I definitely know you would have to purchase for sure some kind of a I have my notes here.
Yeah.
One of the things that's important is you would have to purchase some kind of a PO box where all the mail would come to a PO box outside of my home,
Okay.
and the phone calls, of course, would come here. Um, we could Zoom out of here, but you have to have a location of your own where all your mail would come to. So I was even thinking that some of your recruiters in the beginning would be able to DHL. They would be able to DHL the applicants that they're looking at with the certification, with their application, with all of that information, or so that I could review all of that,
Yeah.
and then we could follow up with a Zoom call so they recognize the face and that we could talk a little bit more.
My thinking on that, Eddie, was I have my whole database system, which I was gonna duplicate and change, and have my database programmer, he sits in South Africa, modify it for the industry, which will take about a month or two to get done. And then have all the documents be uploaded. It will be open, available to the staff that we will allocate to it, and yourself type of principle. So the recruiters will load it all, the worker will load it, he'll fill it all in, and it just appears on your side. You can look at it, open it, and see it without any cost of DHL and the shipping. That's
Oh,
very
okay.
expensive.
That's fine too. I didn't know you had that plan. That's a better plan.
Yeah.
But I still
Mhm.
I still if you don't mind, I would I have very few requirements, but one thing that is
Yeah.
for certain is that I would like to physically see the crew member
Yeah.
on
Yeah. Yeah.
on
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
on a Zoom meeting,
Yeah. No, no,
because
we'll do
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
if there was an issue,
Yeah.
if I needed to come on board, or if there was an issue where that crew member needed to be disembarked for a reason, I
Yes.
don't want to hold up a sign with
No,
his
no,
name.
no.
I want him. I want to be able to focus on the person
Yeah.
that we're dealing with, and I would like for him also to see a face
Yeah. Yeah.
behind the
Yeah.
operation
No,
here in
no,
Florida.
we'll force them all to interview with you, and they can Zoom out of South Africa from their home or
Right.
whatever. And we have a interview system built in our database where you will know in time when
Yeah.
it would be and all that. That's all
Yeah.
there is.
Because the work, you never want someone to go overseas and not to have a contact. That is
Yeah.
like the most
Yes.
horrible thing that one could do to a crew member, because they're already facing an industry that perhaps they don't know what to expect.
Yeah,
they have cold feet, and that's important.
I agree with
Thing-
you.
The other thing that's important is that
Yeah.
when they get on board, they're going to be given their uniforms. They're going to be explained
Mm,
the
mm,
policies of the ship. They're going to get, I mean, they're going to get another rundown as to what is expected of the vessel from them. They're going to go on crew inspections with the Coast Guard. They're going to feel safe because they're going to know that when the ship goes out to sea, they're going to know what they have to do in case of an emergency.
yeah.
All of these things are important to the crew member, and they will be explained all of this on board
Mm,
with their fellow crew members, and
mm,
it's something that takes place very often.
okay.
So the Coast Guard surprises the ship on different locations, and they do the Coast Guard inspections. Also, um, for you for you to feel safe,
Yeah.
crew the staff captain with his officers also do crew checks. So
Okay.
they're going to go. It's just like it's like being a soldier in the army. They're going to go into a particular cabin where there may be four different employees, four different crew members, and they're going to go through the mattress. They're
Mm,
going to go through their drawers. They
mm,
have to they have to agree to
mm,
this
mm.
because we have to make certain that there are no narcotics in their staterooms or no weapons or no knives or
Yeah.
nothing where they can hurt each other. So crew members will routinely receive this type of an inspection,
Okay. Okay. That's interesting.
and that's good because that keeps everyone honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
That that gives the employee that gives excuse me that gives the crew member a sense of safety that
Yeah.
he's safe from the other crew member that's living with him also
Yeah. Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
they you know they live in groups
Yeah.
unless they're a top entertainer and they have their own stateroom and
Yeah.
they would receive the very same conditions.
Oh.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a safe condition for everyone.
Yeah.
Your art dealer friend,
Yeah. Yeah.
he gets and his wife,
Yeah.
beautiful people, wonderful people. They get crew
Mm,
checks of their staterooms. They have to attend
mm.
the various Coast Guard inspections
Okay.
because see on the ship, no one is above anyone else,
Mm, mm.
and each and every one of us could be uh, could be of safety to
Yeah.
a passenger. So
Yeah.
we all have to understand the various ways to exit a ship, to exit a lifeboat, how to close emergency doors, how
Yeah.
to close doors of the cabins if
Mm.
there's water entering. I mean, so there's really a lot for them to learn,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they get paid while they learn that.
Is that stuff they only learn on the ship? Is it something we could start teaching them before
No,
they come?
no. You're being too generous
Okay.
with you're being no you're being too generous with
Yeah.
your the remember though at the end um, there is there is a profit margin here
Yeah,
for
yeah.
you
We was
and
gonna some way have to
no,
talk
yeah
about what
there's
type of money will we all
yeah
make.
there's a profit margin and we have to know what that profit margin is
Hmm,
as of today 10/11 of 2024. What is the profit margin for you,
hmm.
and then you need to determine whether or not this is profitable for you.
Yeah,
But what we do know is that whatever the profit margin is per crew member, we
yeah,
know that you're going to be able to multiply it
yeah,
times many
yeah,
crew
yeah,
members,
yeah,
and then that's where your profit margin is going to come into the picture.
yeah, yeah. No, I do the same with my agents. They get a commission, and if they want to make more money, we fill more positions for me, and then I create the positions on this side. So
I hear you. I
yeah,
hear you. So I hope that you're what I think we should do
mm,
is um, I think I think especially you because I don't want to bore you with facts and knowledge of the industry. I think it would be a good idea if you want to maybe create a notebook of additional questions that you may have as you have any free time, and questions that you may have that perhaps we have to look into, because it's a whole new world now, and this industry changes daily. And but it's important. I think it's important that if you want to do this, I think it's important to start reaching out to the lines and making the introduction, because the introduction, actually, the providing the tasks may take a shorter time than actually making the introductions and saying, listen, we're out here and we're available to provide you this service. We know that you've had a wonderful, successful 2024 year of cruising, and now we know that 2025 is coming just around the corner, and we know that you're going to be needing an additional 25,000 crew members on top of the 300 that need to be replaced off and on. So, with a lot of motivation, introducing the service, and then having those letters get kicked around and seeing what kind of responses one gets. I know for certain, and I'll tell you this again, I know for certain the cruise lines, they're really getting concerned about the caliber of the employees that they're getting, because of the satellite office that we discussed this. And I'll tell you again, the satellite offices they're basically, some of them are just not cooperating with the caliber of the crew member, and then the line suffers because they offer the contract to that particular crew member for 7 months or 9 months, and then they need to be replaced. So, now you have a void. You have a missing position, no different than your farmers have a missing CDL driver or a tractor driver.
Eddie, if one can create such letters and send them to the cruise lines, would they immediately, or was it a long bureaucratic process? Would they read it and say, hey, let's talk to these people? What's their normal MO to decide we'll give them a chance?
No different from the industry that you're in right now. The blueberries have to get picked. The strawberries have to get picked. The land has to get sowed. The land has to there's a tremendous demand. This is an industry with a tremendous demand.
Okay.
So therefore,
they might be open for it if we convince them and present our offering.
Yes. So Jared was very smart when he said, Eddie, normally, and I admire what he said to me, and I understand. Jared said to me, I think that Manuel is going to want a business plan. And I said to Jared, a business plan could be something that could take forever before Manuel, actually, it could be another piece of paper on your desk before you're actually attracted to the idea. I always told Sir Wayne, John, and Jared, I feel the idea is to go directly to Manuel and present the opportunity to him and have him sit on this and think about this, and then say, this is definitely what I want to do, or this is highly complex, or you may think that perhaps you're not ready to do it as of now, but I understand business plans work, but business plans are also a lot of salesmanship, and business plans, that plan can sit on that desk of yours underneath all the rest of the paperwork. I personally wanted to take the time to go directly to you and challenge you with this idea, because I think two things. Number one, you would appreciate it. And number two, you would say to yourself, you know, this man really brought it to me. He brought it right to me, and he laid down the opportunities that I have before me. And sometimes paper and pencil and business proposals, sometimes they don't work as well. Sometimes
They work well on
they,
paper, not in
yeah,
reality,
yeah,
or vice versa.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
and I've written business plans, and this business, yeah, actually, I did do in the beginning 20 years ago a broad plan, so but not to the extent as what I've done some others that never materialized. But
Yeah.
it
No,
maybe,
I
yeah,
mean my putting together all
yeah,
these thoughts in
yeah,
writing and then presenting them to you.
yeah,
Um, maybe it wouldn't have caused this the same effect, which
yeah,
is what I shared with Sir Wayne, John, and Jared. I think that this direct phone call, this direct Zoom meeting, would cause a direct opportunity challenge. Just it would maybe present another idea to you
yeah,
that perhaps you did not have.
yeah, yeah. I agree with you. I have a question that will help me think a bit through this, because I do want to draft a whole bunch of questions and then meet with you again.
Right.
Maybe we target next week the same time, and we see if we can meet another session with whatever questions I bring to the table, and maybe you add some new ones. What is the amount that who pays one for the recruiting these people? The ship, do they pay you for it?
No, the company directly.
Okay.
The company, the operations department of the company will pay
From the
the
cruise ship.
no, the main headquarters. Each
Oh,
corporation has a main headquarter.
okay.
Many of them are here in Fort Lauderdale. A few
Okay.
others are here in Miami. They would cut the check directly to you, or perhaps a direct deposit, whatever
Yeah,
arrangement
yeah, yeah.
is
I was
made.
just
Yeah,
checking if they are.
yeah.
And then, do you have a broad idea what type of money are we talking about per person?
That I for that I have to look at the new and the newly released numbers.
Okay.
That's going to require some research, because remember,
Yeah.
we're in 2024 and this industry keeps changing
Yeah.
every day. Uh, 4 years ago,
Yeah.
our ships 4 years ago our ships were floating in the ocean because of COVID,
Yeah.
and we had crew members that we didn't need. We were trying to disperse them back to their countries.
Hmm.
Then finally, you know, due to vaccinations and what have you, we're back to cruising again.
Yeah.
So the numbers have changed, and I wouldn't want to give you a
Okay.
number that's not accurate.
D- d-
But see, I think
Yeah.
that after you after we reach out to the various lines,
Hmm.
there should be some responses, and in those responses, then that's where they're going to say, this is what we're currently doing, and this is what we're currently paying. Because the idea first, I believe, is the introduction,
Okay.
and
But
then after the introduction you
yeah.
start preparing the bonds, and
Yeah.
then they would tell you what they're interested in paying, what the going rate is.
Okay, but there must be a basic. I mean, I can Google it probably. I don't know if it's on Google available, but just as a, do you make like I make in my industry per worker a fee? So I have three
Right.
fees that I make, but one,
Exactly.
where I make money in my company is out of a monthly fee, but in this model, there's probably not going to be a monthly fee for the provision of a worker. There'll only be a one-time fee that's say $500. And so out of the 500, one has to pay the agents for finding these people, doing their role,
Right.
then keep some this side, finance the infrastructure. So I was just
Exactly.
curious if we have a silly
So
number in our head.
so
Yeah.
so that's that's going to be important. I
Yeah.
think that right now, you wouldn't have we would not have any issues right now starting to provide the crew members, right? Because we know there's already demand in
Yeah.
Zimbabwe,
Yeah. Yeah.
Somalia, and Nairobi.
Yeah.
So that there's the supply. Now the idea then is to know what they're paying. I've been thinking about this for a week and a half. What they're paying so that you could do your cost analysis
Yeah. A
and
little
see
bit. A
and
little bit.
see
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
this is profitable for
Yeah.
your company.
Yeah.
Now, of course, without reaching out to them and without establishing a bond, an introduction. No company is going to take a phone call
Mm.
from Manuel Fick or from myself
Yeah.
without knowing who they're talking to, because they could be talking to the media.
Yeah.
You know, there are media who are against the idea of a crew
Yeah.
member working 14 hours a day
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
set amount of money.
Yeah.
So
My
they are
father
very
too.
exactly.
Also.
Yes. They have to know exactly
Yeah.
who they're speaking to, and they have to know that you're already in the business.
Mm.
So this is why I think introducing yourself as, you know, the owner of USA Farm Labor with an ongoing interest or a new subsidiary
Yeah.
providing labor to the cruise lines, well, then that puts them at ease, and they say, well, now we know we're talking to an agency as opposed to the media.
The media. Yeah. No, no,
Okay.
I'm comfortable with that. And if that's what it takes, we can for sure
Yeah. And then
compile a beautiful letter, get it,
exactly.
and see
And
what
then
they say. Yeah.
and then I would only imagine that at that point they would come back and say, well, these are our terms and conditions.
Yes.
And
Yes.
at some point they have to tell you what they're going to incentivize you, because they're the ones who need the 300,000 employees.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're going to tell you, well, listen, this is this is the margin
Yes.
that you could
Work for.
count on with us, whether it's per crew member or per contract.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is today, but
Okay.
there's definitely a number, because they know that they're not doing this, that nobody does this for nothing.
Yeah.
Now, you have to also remember this, Manuel. What is the cost? What is the cost for them to have their own satellite offices
Yeah.
throughout the country? Because that's a cost for them too. Are they, if they're paying a guy who's working out of his house, there's still a salary involved in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's still a cost involved in what they're doing, because they're unable to recruit these employees from their home offices, from their headquarters.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They need to have these recruiters
Yeah.
regardless.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So they have a cost. It's
Yeah.
knowing what they're willing to pay is the answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when they see through letterhead, and when they understand through writing that you are the owner of a company that already is doing this in
Yeah.
agriculture, and how you could implement this very same services towards the cruise line, now boom, you've
Yeah.
just lit up a light in
Mm.
the offices of these executives, and they're saying,
Yeah.
this is not a little Joe Blow that we're using
Yeah.
at the satellite office.
Yeah, that's true. No, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I was thinking, it's funny. Just this week, we made connection in South Africa with schools that want to bring their workers, to train their kids out of school to come to our agricultural opportunity.
Right.
But the same school has a need for those people when they finish school to come do something else. So we have a phenomenal, massive opportunity.
Now
Absolutely.
remember something.
Yeah.
Those trucks, those CDL trucks, and those tractors that you're running on land in South Africa, I can assure you the farmers are paying for that. And with the cruise lines, you don't have to do that because
Yeah.
you don't have to go and open a dining room
Yeah.
tomorrow
Yeah.
or an engine room
Yeah.
tomorrow
No,
back home
no.
because what they need is, and I'm sorry to say this, and you'll never hear me say this word again,
Yeah.
ever. But what they need is they need the prospective crew member.
Mm.
That's what they need. They need the prospective crew member.
Yeah.
They don't need you and I to train this
Yeah.
crew member how to smile. You're
Yeah.
either a smiler or you're not.
Yeah.
You either have the certification or you don't.
That's
And if
right.
you don't have if you don't have the certification and you have the interest, well then you know what? You have to go out there and you have to work for it. And
Yeah.
then come back in 6 months and then we'll talk again.
Yeah. 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 No, it's true. Absolutely.
So this whole entire operation that you have going, um, it's regardless of whether the farmer is paying for it or not,
Yeah.
it's still something that you are somewhat manning, and it's still a responsibility that you have.
No, no, it's a heck of a one. It's a $22,000 a month one I have in South
Okay.
Africa. And
Okay.
the main goal, and my farmers actually don't pay for it directly, other than I am slightly more expensive than my competitors. And the money I make, I'm plowing back to make sure, because my biggest complaint from my farmers is I don't believe necessarily what the workers put on their resumes
Right.
or the skill that they must come perform.
We have the same problem here in
Yeah,
America,
yeah,
Manuel.
yeah, yeah,
Manuel, we have the same issue here.
yeah,
It's a worldwide issue. When
yeah,
when they come on board, and they don't know how to serve a guest,
yeah,
you know what's going to happen?
yeah,
That food and beverage manager is going to sit down with that employee, and they're going to say that crew member, and they're
yeah,
going to say to him, "Okay, so you lied your way through here. Now you're here.
yeah.
What do you know how to do before I send you back home?"
Well, that's not what we want to do.
Exactly.
We want to make sure, and that's why I spend the money in South Africa
Right.
to get to a point where none of my competitors can compete, where I can say, this worker was verified. We saw
Right.
that he can do it. We
Right.
made him drive a truck to show
Perfect.
us. So
Perfect.
luckily in this, what we're talking about, you're right. I wouldn't have to have the expense of buying trucks and stuff. We just need to make sure that the
Yeah.
vetting
Yeah.
is really accurate and well
Yeah.
done.
And Manuel, I love mathematics, and if I if we both understand fundamentals, regardless, you're making yourself, and I don't want to I don't want to cross the red line with your business because your
Mhm.
business is very successful. But every time you're adding expenses to your business, you're having to pass it down to your customers.
Yeah,
And then at some point you can become outdone
yeah,
by your competitors.
yeah,
Your competitors can come in with better prices, and the farmers may want to go for the lower price because maybe they feel insecure about the crop for 2025 or the weather or what have you, and they may say, well, we'll want to hire 500 workers for 2025, but based on the reports that we're getting and the storms that we're getting in climate weather and all of these other things, maybe we're better off going with the company offering the least amount of that's charging the least amount of money.
mm,
So you're adding expenses to your costs. With the cruise line, your expenses are
mm,
basically the cost of running your satellite offices
mm,
and running them well.
yeah,
That is your cost, which you already do.
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, there'll probably be a personnel component with whatever you provide there in Florida. because and one thing that's different, which is good. In my model, I have to do all the paperwork for these farmers. So I have to comply and fill in the forms for my farmers and
Right.
so on. And that's why I actually have 33 people sitting in this office just to make the paperwork come together. And then I have 7 others sitting here that just liaise between my clients and the workers and my recruiters. I have what they're called worker placement coordinators, and they do fulfill that function. So yeah, this definitely can be a less
Re-
expensive model to
Please
operate.
remember, please
Yeah,
remember the employee, the crew member that you're hiring in South Africa
yeah,
is going to, the majority is going to be less skilled, and it's going to take less investment,
yeah,
and you're multiplying towards larger numbers.
yeah.
So as a mathematician, I don't know what's better than that.
No, no, no. I
Unless
hear you.
unless you have a secret formula, that that formula that formula
Yeah,
works real well.
yeah. No, I hear you, idiot. It sounds definitely very workable, feasible. Maybe not yet so sure how profitable. We'll see when we know what they will pay one. But yeah, we'll pursue it. I'm very open and definitely motivated and sold on it. To be honest with you, you don't have.
And and
Uh,
remember,
yeah,
it's another it's
mm,
and I'll leave you with this thought. It's another arm for
mm,
you,
mm,
because Manuel, we don't know what's going to happen in the next election here. We
mm,
don't know if we don't know that we're going to have a president in the realm who may be anti migration, anti people working in this country from other countries. We don't know. There's many possibilities. There's many conversations about migration. Migration is one of the biggest conversations amongst both candidates,
mm,
and we really don't know where they stand at this point. And then when they take office, it'll be a whole different
mm,
situation.
mm.
So I
No, it's
I,
true.
I you know, I said to Sir Wayne John right away, I said, I've got to meet Manuel, because if anything, Manuel really needs to listen about and just get and share with Manuel about an industry he's not touching. You're
Yeah.
going on these wonderful cruises.
Yeah,
You're having a wonderful time,
yeah.
and it's
Hopefully,
kind of it's kind
yeah.
of amazing that you're getting carried away with the entertainment and the wine, and you're not seeing that there's 60 different nationalities that are walking by you
Yeah,
and
yeah,
entertaining you, and
yeah,
that there's a tremendous opportunity for you there,
yeah.
Manuel.
To be honest, I hear you and I saw it and I wondered about it, but I stayed sort of out of it because I just didn't have enough info. Um,
Right.
and a door just didn't open. And from a spiritual perspective, I must always believe that God will bring the door when the time is right
Yep.
with the right people. Otherwise, I keep doing what I'm doing and I do it
Good.
great.
And you do it very good. Now, let me give you another thought.
Yeah.
So, going back to migration. So, a US citizen could be on the band that they don't want migration in this country,
Mm.
correct? So they're against it completely.
Yeah.
Then they go on a cruise, and they love the cabin steward, they love the dining room attendant,
Yeah.
they loved the entertainment, and oh my God, they had such a wonderful time. They're booking cruises right on the ship to
Yeah.
come back again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then my question to you, as someone who does this for a living, what is the difference between the two employees or
Yeah.
crew members? What is the difference of the two?
You mean between the one in the US and the one on the cruise
No,
ship?
no, between the one that the one that you're providing to the agricultural community,
Yeah.
and the one the cruise line is providing to the cruise industry? Why do they love more the one that they meet on the cruise line?
Oh, they love mine. They love mine. You
Yeah,
know, my
yeah,
clients, if you walk to them, I drive in the summer to my clients and visit
right,
physically.
right,
And they are in love with their workers. They treat them 90% like royalty, give them
exactly.
free housing, take them on vacation, fly them to Vegas. And also the farmer, which is generally a very conservative group,
Right.
appreciates it. But I might have to say that because they look and sound like me, it makes it a little more palatable for farmers in the Midwest. I'm just going to be honest with you. We've been trying to bring people of color out of South Africa to my
Right.
farmers, and
Uh-huh.
it's not taking up, not working. When they have the same people in a pool to select from,
Uh-huh.
they choose people who look and sound like me.
Well, I have to tell you something.
Yeah,
Just so, just so, just so you could give this some thought. The young man, the young man that I
yeah,
spoke about from Kenya,
yeah,
that I spoke to him,
yeah,
and my wife was with me while I
yeah,
was
yeah,
speaking to him. And after we spoke to him,
yeah.
my wife and I had nothing but praise for the
Mm,
man. And
mm,
I have to tell you something. He was he was completely different. He was not blonde like you,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and uh, and I'll tell you what, he definitely had the characteristics of a
Mm,
man from Kenya without going into much
yeah,
detail,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and he was amazingly grateful.
Mm, mm,
The man was spotless in
mm.
his uniform. He looked fabulous. He
Yeah,
smelled wonderful. He had beautiful teeth.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, the man had high cheekbones, and he looked like a movie star.
yeah.
And
Okay. Yeah,
he was simply a crew member from Kenya.
yeah, yeah.
I don't think there were five people on board the vessel that asked him where he was from. I don't think there were five people
Yeah.
on the ship, not even two, that had a wonderful conversation and acknowledged where he was from. And I have to tell you, he was extremely impressive.
Mm,
If if
mm.
we could start
Yeah,
with that type of a crew member,
yeah,
even though he's not blonde like
yeah,
you,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
have to tell you
yeah,
that they
yeah,
would they would keep coming back,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they would have no frown on their faces,
yeah.
because remember, a farmer could be is conservative, and he could be a bit choosy. He could be a
Mm,
bit
mm.
choosy only because he knows that you have an entire workforce behind
Yeah,
you. You have
yeah,
an army of people to send
yeah,
him. But
yeah.
the cruise line, they're a whole different industry. And
Mm,
the way our industry works and the
mm.
way a farmer works is completely different. So
Fully,
we
fully.
all we
Yeah,
want honest, loyal,
yeah,
hardworking people.
yeah, yeah.
And if we could provide that with some follow up and
Mm,
making sure they're doing well. The other thing is, a crew member could have, for example, the address to the mailbox.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, and I'll give you an example. That crew member doesn't always have to see me personally.
yeah.
That crew member could buy a stamp at guest services. Okay, they have
Mhm.
everything. They have
Okay.
stamps, they have toiletries, they have everything they need.
Mm,
All
mm,
he has to do is buy one stamp in an envelope, and he could write a letter and talk about his experiences,
mm,
and that letter could be followed up, because I could respond to that letter from
mm,
that crew member
mm,
and give him the coaching and the advice that he may need in
mm,
order to make the next day so that he could finish his contract
mm, mm.
or move up to a different department where maybe he'll breathe a little better.
Yeah, yeah.
Because look, I know for certain that senior officers on board these vessels, officers, they have a lot of pressure. because the passenger counts are so high, and they have to provide a service, and the guest has very high standards, and sometimes they're under a lot of stress, and there may be times when perhaps maybe they don't approach a crew member the way they should. Maybe a crew member could get discouraged, but on the other hand, there's someone that he could or she could write to and say, this is my situation. And then you could provide him counsel as to what to do next, or or whom to go next to alleviate their issue. And you know what? I don't know of a small recruiter in any one of these countries who are doing this today. They're providing the crew member, they're receiving their commissions, and they're moving on to the next one.
That's what happens with my competitors here. They do the same.
Right.
We set ourselves apart by giving
Here,
that service to them.
If we could provide a full buffet breakfast to that crew member is going to feel shielded, protected, safe. And you know what? They put their heads down, work hard, and before you know it, that contract is over. They come home, they spend time with their families, and it's time to come back. In fact, one of the biggest questions that the immigration inspector is going to want to know is, what do you plan to do when you come home? They want to know. That's one of the important questions. They want to know that you're not going to say, oh, I plan to spend a week in Fort Lauderdale and go to the beach and visit friends and visit crew members. No, they want to know that for certain you're going to get off that vessel and you're going to go straight to the airport, and for the airport you're going to fly direct to Zimbabwe. And then you're going to enjoy your earnings with your family and your friends, and rest, and then get ready to come back.
That's the same they ask our people too. So we coach them. We make sure they say that. We make sure they don't say the wrong thing to the
exactly. Otherwise, you lose your time. You lose the perspective, crew member, and then the cruise line is waiting for you to produce that crew member, because you wrote him a beautiful letter talking about the services that you are going to provide, and now you have to walk the talk. You have to walk the talk, and you have to provide it. So
on that,
we could talk about this forever, because this subject is very dear to me. And I have a lot of passion for the industry, and I could see you have tremendous passion for what you're doing. So let's stay in touch. I spend an hour with Jared and Sir Wayne John. I've spent hours with Sir Wayne John at the pool, so that he's well versed about what's going on too, because I wanted also for Sir Wayne John to pull you by the ears and to speak into your ear, to whisper to you that you didn't want to lose out on this opportunity. And I believe he's done that too. And so today I had the pleasure of meeting you and your wife. And so let's stay in touch, and let's see what we could do.
All right. I'll get that list for you. Tentatively, we must either meet next week or the one after. You must give me a feeling. I'll start compiling some questions that we think we could put together. I'll probably transcribe this whole session with AI so that we know what you shared with me, and I can share with my people and put it together.
And at one point, you have to offer me the opportunity to work for you, and to see what kind of progress we could make amongst ourselves, you and I, because this is a time-consuming project for me as well as for you, especially for you. You're a very busy man, and I will be putting in a lot on my end So we need to come together
Yeah.
with some formal opportunity coming from you
Yeah.
towards my end,
Yeah.
so that we know that we're on the same page, and we
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
start working. We could start working
Yeah.
on this project.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. That's partly why I ask a bit, what would we make out of it so we can decide, start thinking of remuneration that where did you want a salary, did you want a commission, did you want a per worker consultation or shareholding, there's all kinds of questions probably on the table there.
right. No, I would be looking at a salary. I
Okay.
don't know what the exact numbers are now. I would like to first know what they would be paying, what they're going to be paying you,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
that would be important.
yeah.
But on the other hand, um, you know, I have to be incentivized in the
No,
project
absolutely.
also.
No, for
Yes,
bringing the opportunity and all your
exactly,
absolutely.
exactly. Because
Yeah.
Manuel, I don't have to tell you that's where the opportunity lies for you, because that's where the motivation comes from, and that's where the dedication and loyalty comes from.
Mm.
Um, I did, and I hope you don't take any offense to
Mm-mm,
this, but
mm-mm.
I did look at your web page,
Yeah.
and I found some of your salaries to be quite low. I don't know if that's in a different currency. I don't know how that translates to American dollars, but I looked at your website, and there were
Yeah.
some lovely pictures of different people who work and represent you. And of course, I don't know. Um, I think I saw some people even from North Carolina. Maybe their specialty level is a
Well,
little different.
everybody who works for me in my office is on a salary, hourly wage rate that turns to a salary. Nobody is on a salary; they're hourly, and it's all market related, and we pay equal to the
Okay,
slightly above the average,
okay,
and so on. And some people make lots more money than others here.
yeah,
But that's just if you saw, I don't think you could have seen some Indeed positions, but it's for the area. Then for the
yeah,
commissions that we pay our agents is a whole different ball game.
right.
Um, so yeah, we'll have to treat this one, I think, absolutely different, Eddie.
Yes,
Not the
exactly.
same because it's going to have different numbers. I think
Right,
there's a broad model that I can
right.
duplicate,
I
but
just,
yeah, yeah,
I just wanted to leave that thought with you,
yeah,
because I don't want to compete with you. I
yeah,
rather I rather align myself with you
yeah,
on this
yeah,
project.
yeah.
So, put together all your thoughts, and let me know when you want to meet again,
Okay.
and we'll keep
Yeah.
working on this. There's a couple of additional things that I want to start investigating,
Mhm,
and looking back at. But I
yeah.
just think it's important to start reaching out. There's too many ships that are going out of Cape Canaveral, Miami, Tampa, Jacksonville, and Florida would be a great start for this.
Mm,
And remember, a crew member could start his journey
yeah.
on one vessel, and then in between contracts, management could sit down with our crew member and say, "Well, Johnny, you've done a great job for us, and we like you so much that we have a new ship that's
Yeah.
coming out, and there's a new opportunity for you, and we're gonna fly you there." And they're going to present that crew member with different opportunities. The
Okay.
contract will be the same. We'll just lose track of that employee, but that employee hopefully will go to the stamp and the letter, and there's no reason why he couldn't drop a letter from whatever new port of call he is at
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
home base, and say, "I'm here now, sailing out of San Diego, and I'm going to Alaska."
Yeah. Yeah.
So this way we know where it's important to know the whereabouts of the crew member at
Yeah,
all times. Now, you have to understand also that senior officers on board the vessel, they're extremely busy looking after the passenger itself, the guest, looking after the guest. So they're not always going to have the time to sit down and compose an email advising me that, and for me to advise your office that crew member is now in Seattle versus Miami.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So many times they do. They take a third of the ship and they say we're going to reposition the third of the ship to a new vessel that's coming out. They could end up in Finland. They could end up in anywhere basically. And but they do provide the jackets and the coats and everything else so that crew member won't be cold if they were to change climates or if they were to go to a different country. So there would be no worries on that side.
Yeah, okay. Eddie, no, this was great. I appreciate the time we could spend. There was nearly 2.5 hours, I think.
It was an absolute pleasure. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
I didn't know that you were blonde and handsome. In fact, if since your operation runs so well, and your wife could take over USA farm labor, perhaps I could get you. I could propose to get you a job on board as a hotel manager, and you could do what I do. You would be wonderful. You have the smile.
Okay, that's a good start there.
And the personality, of course.
Thank you, Eddie. No, wonderful. I will be in touch and talk.
Thank you very much. You have my phone number and my email.
Yeah, you put it in this at a time. I don't. Let me write your number just down.
Yes.
Just for the moment. I know I have your email, but just your number.
Oh, and then one more thing. One more thing that's important. I don't know. One of the things that I have to do tonight is I have to call my telephone provider and ask them if the telephone plan that I have, if I'm able to reach out to you in South Africa.
Well, I'm not in South Africa. I live in North Carolina.
Okay. Oh, okay. So you'd be calling me from North Carolina. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So this information that we discussed about the DHL and the packages, going back and forward, I was assuming I misunderstood from Sir Wayne John. I thought you were basically living in South Africa.
No. I lived there for 27 years. I've lived in the States. So
okay, I didn't know how much of the time you were living out of South Africa.
Oh, I visit 7 days a year, maybe in South Africa, but all my recruiters live there. 7 of them in South Africa.
Right.
But no, so that you can call me anytime. My number is Indiana phone number.
Let me write it down.
Okay. It is say when you're ready, Eddie.
I'm ready.
765
437
6330.
6330. So I'm going to repeat it.
Okay.
It's an Indiana number. It's 765 437 6330.
Yeah, that's perfect. Okay. We used to live there, and I just kept the number, and it works great.
By the way, I would appreciate one more thing from you.
Yeah.
I don't want to hold you up, but my master, the Sir Wayne John.
Yeah.
I know he's going to reach out to you, and he's going to make certain that we had this call. And he's going to want to know how outstanding I was during the call. I don't want him to take me off of his pedestal.
Oh no, I'll make sure you stay.
Okay. You have a wonderful evening.
But by the way, why didn't he get on? He was sent the link.
I don't know.
I thought he was going to join us.
He was scheduled to be on,
Yeah.
Perhaps the weather is not right, or perhaps First Lady Lynn may
Yeah.
not be feeling well.
Okay. I'll touch
Occasionally,
base with him. Thank
yeah,
you.
I'll make sure he's okay.
You
All
didn't
right.
you didn't give me your number. I was
My
right.
number,
Yeah.
321
321
213
213
7129.
7129. Okay.
And you have my email address.
Yeah. Thank you, Eddie. All
Good.
right.
It was
Appreciate
a
it.
pleasure. It was a
Yeah.
pleasure, sir.
Me too.
Thank
Be
you.
blessed.
Thank
Talk to you
you to
later.
you and to your wife. Have a nice
Thank you.
evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.